Live from Circuit Paul Ricard, the penultimate round of the Mini British GT Championship here on RCI TV. Bienvenue to everyone as we bring you live coverage here from France. I'm Jesse Lee, joined by Jack Mays, Ash Bibby behind the pictures. Qualifying just underway. It's a circuit that you either love or hate. For a lot of drivers, they relish the opportunity to race around here. Others fall asleep down the Mistral straight. Jack, welcome in. Welcome back to France. And welcome to, I think, the most underrated, underappreciated track in ACC.
I 100% agree with you. Good evening, everybody. And welcome to the penultimate round. Like Jesse said, it's just going to be such a fun race tonight. Our final 90-minute feature race of the championship. Two championships to fight for, of course. GT3s, GT4s both have the opportunity to be sewn up here tonight. Qualifying will help those drivers looking to get a championship under their belt make it a little bit easier. Joe Dauber, the man to be, the bride to be. I'm going to start calling him for tonight in GT3. Raphael Huel is our bride to be in GT4. We're anticipating some weather tonight. Jesse Lee, it seems like it's going to be a dry qualifying all the way through, but the race might be a little bit different. A little bit of drizzle, a little bit of wet to dry, a little bit of dry to wet. Who's to say? A little bit of mystery tonight, but it is sure to be an absolute stunner.
Yeah, it sure is. It's going to be a very interesting evening indeed, with the championship looming on its close. Of course, the penultimate round, one more race after tonight, but as Jack said, the final 90-minute affair. But I think as qualifying continues to progress, with Andre Baddock currently quickest, the 53.662 over Joe Dauber, 0.3 of a second. I really wouldn't worry about that so much. The times will get closer here in the next lap or two. That's about all the GT3s have left anyway, but that seems to be the ticket. You have a question for Jack as we may go on board with Jordan Daly here. This championship coming down to the end, but we are missing some of the drivers. Of course, the heat wave in Europe continues, and some of the drivers not here, namely McKenna McConnell, who is stuck at the Brussels airport as well. So a couple of key players, including Martin Lawrence, not here tonight.
Yeah, of course, Martin Lawrence second in the championship, pretty close behind Joe Dauber, not showing up. And in their own words, I don't think it's actually the pervading weather outside, but the pervading weather in the sim. He's not looking forward to a mixed afternoon on the racetrack. He's not really looking forward to driving the BMW M6. I think he's bowing out tonight, though we could see still the championship to fight at the end of tonight. If Joe Dauber gets on the podium or better, he wins the championship. If he's below that, he will go to the finale next week. Jordan Daly, who we're on board with right now, showing us just how long the Mistral straight is and just how quick the corner is right behind it. I definitely didn't watch him spin here earlier, no way. But he made it through easily that time into the winding third sector. One of the most difficult third sectors, I think, on any racetrack. It's a lot of braking in not quite a straight line. It's a lot of off-cambered corners, and Daly almost looping the car, but managing to hang on to it. You really want to avoid that apex curve there for turn 11. It is a lot higher than it looks, and you can't unsettle the car. Penultimate corner now for turn 13, and immediately long left, fires into a sharp hairpin right for the final corner. Another curb you don't want to touch on that apex. Then you wind it up down the straight. Jordan Daly not looking for an improvement, not looking like he's going to improve on this lap. He'll stay fourth position. He's still got, Jesse, another lap to go. I think this is going to be the easiest night they're going to have with the weather ever so looming. But good to see the old names sort of one final time in a Monday championship. And as it's getting closer, I'm just feeling a little, I don't know, it's bittersweet, this championship. It's been so much fun, and we still have more to go, but it's just like, it feels like the clock is winding down. The sand is sort of spilling through the hourglass.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of things going on. We talk about the weather here and the unpredictability, and you're trying to get a lap in. You only have about 10 minutes to do it in each class. So that and the weather, because we mentioned a lot of Europe in a heat wave. So you have that, and certain drivers out of position around the world. So there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things going on. And also, too, the end of an era, an end of a championship, an end of a series in 1 week's time. Baddock in the pit lane, resting on that 53.662, 0.3 better than Uri Svinček. Nico Kumpu has slotted into third place. Shipston Daly, your top five, all covered by half a second. Behind them, it gets very close indeed. Daly to Badowski is only 3/100ths of a second, less than a tenth behind them is this driver, Joe Dauber for Rebound Racing, looking to improve their station down in 7th place. Do they do it? They improve their lap time, but not their position.
A few more cars trickling down. Wojtek Rybecki, the CLR V12 Vantage, just screaming down the Mistral straight. Possibly the best sounding car of the group, but there's a lot of good sounding old machines, new machines. It's a who's who of racing cars. It's a who's who of RCI racing names. But the last of the GT3s for qualifying is going to be Wojtek Rybecki. Not the strongest car. Let's be honest, the V12 Vantage, it tends to do well at circuits with very long straights, as it's known for being very good in a straight line. Little bit of improvement on the time, but it's going to need to be a bit more to improve on position. Aston screaming down a livery that sort of flummoxed you all season long, Jesse Lee. And, well, I'm not going to jinx it, but maybe I believe in you. You won't get confused this time. Wojtek Rybecki coming across the line. It's almost enough for a positional improvement, but an improvement on the time. Now it's time for the little brothers, shall we say, Jesse Lee. It's GT4 qualifying.
GT4 is hitting the track for their 10 minutes of qualifying. Most of them already making their way around to start their lap. Joe Dauber joins us at the conclusion of GT3 qualifying, saying #washed, need rain. Joe Dauber qualifying in 7th place, your championship leader, looking for a little bit of the precipitation to help further their cause. They didn't get it in quali in the overcast session, but we'll see whenever it flips over to the race just what we have. But now here is the here and now. Picciano has been disqualified for going out in the wrong group. I have that confirmed by the race manager, Kevin Boss. Car 322 disqualified for failing to adhere to qualifying rules. So the 322 Alpine will start from the absolute rear of the grid. That will leave the rest, I think some 9 or 8 GT4s out there to do battle in qualifying. Jack, GT3s have a lot of power, and around a flat track, sometimes that can be quite tricky. I'm curious what your take is. GT4s around here, a little bit less power, a little bit less aero. They probably understeer a little bit more, but what's the general feel of a GT4 around Circuit Paul Ricard?
It's so much more about mechanical grip than what you're going to get from heavy aerodynamics. I mean, these are all production-based race cars, and I feel like GT4s are, I sort of like to think of it as, hey, they took a road car, they put on slick tires, and I don't know, maybe they slapped a rear wing on the back and said, job done. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's sort of how it feels from inside the car. It's a lot more tentative on braking. It's going to be a lot more sort of general understeered, nowhere close to as good on high speed as a GT3 car, but I mean, it's only about 100 horsepower deficit. It's not too big a difference down the straight. It's maybe 20-30 kilometers an hour, which is sort of a lot, but also isn't a lot when it comes to a straight as long as the Mistral. But the biggest thing car to car in GT4 that I noticed, I spent a lot of time looking at top speeds in the practice session, and the Ginetta is hopelessly and entirely outgunned. It runs out of puff at about 243 kilometers an hour. The fastest GT4 clocking just about 270. That is, well, let's just say for the 3 Ginettas, or 2 Ginettas, excuse me, that are here tonight, that's going to be a long one for him, Jesse Lee. But I love a GT4. I love the way they drive. I love the sort of dialed back nature of them. And I'm sure Callum will have fun in the corners. Not so much fun on the straight.
Of course, Callum Kerrigan, a winner in LMU Thursdays, won the opening round. Spoilers, I suppose I should say, but won LMU Thursdays back here on ACC, the old bread and butter, looking mid-table right now as they try to get the iconic livery up a few more spots. Led all by Raphael Huell over Boardman, about a 10th in it, only just. Between the two, Stubna, Kerrigan, Boss, the top 5. Actually, Kilmoff just knocked Boss down 1 position. A couple of drivers out on the track that haven't set a time, Van Cauter and Redford. Schaefer, I believe, in the Maserati is going to start in the rear on purpose. Picciano has been disqualified for going out in the wrong group. They don't have a choice. But for Van Cauter and Redford, I imagine they just have invalidated their first lap is what's going on there, and that's huge because that puts you well behind the 8 ball as far as putting in a banker lap time. So you'll be going all or nothing for this next lap. And just as I say that about Schaefer's out of the pit lane in the number 13 Maserati. They will take part in this session, it looks like.
Pretty much going to be a one-shot qualifying for Schaefer. I mean, you could go out, warm your tires up on that out lap, maybe you can do an opening push lap, but it's pretty much going to be down to the very final to put in a good one. Of course, Henry the Hoover is this Maserati that's become a bit of a favorite in the comments. I think it's become a favorite around the world, is Martin Schaefer's Maserati Gran Turismo GT4. I also love this car because it just makes such a raw, fantastic noise and is an idiotic production car to turn into a race car. A big, fat Maserati GT. Let's rip a bunch of weight out of it, stick a rear wing on it, no electronic aids whatsoever, and take it out racing, which is what they did for a number of years. Not super successful, though, I must say, but looks good, sounds good, Jesse Lee, and we'll see what Martin Schaefer can do in the one-shot qualifying. I mean, Anton Klimov, car for car, is currently 23rd overall, so it's got some pace around here. Hopefully, for their sake, it does not right now.
Raphael Huell has gone quicker, and Andy Boardman continuing to give chase. It's still Those two in that configuration, Huel, Boardman, Stubna third, and Klimov has just gone quicker up into fourth place in the category. Callum Kerrigan down to fifth, as they're all quite close in contention here, um, behind third place anyway, as there is a little bit of a gap between the top couple of cars, somewhat of a significant gap, an unusual size of gap, but we saw that again in GT3 qualifying, and right at the end, it closed up. It typically always does. Mike Redford in the suck of the Alpine. That's Thurlby in front. They're going to pull out, and that's going to be huge for Mike Redford and the Mike Racing number 95 McLaren, because down the Mistral straight, getting any kind of tow is absolutely mega. So we'll see when the 95 comes around if they're able to trouble any of the leaders. And it doesn't seem like a lot, does it, Jack? You don't think, like, how much could it be? But the Mistral straight in this configuration without the chicanes is very, very long. These cars have less aero than the others, so whenever you further take that away, they get quite slippy, and you can gain tenths of a second on the straight alone in the tow, and being able to get around them right at the end was also mega as well. We'll see if it all comes together and they're able to put together a good lap here.
Yeah, it's we don't have a banker lap to compare to, so we have no idea how he's doing based on himself. But that McLaren 570S GT4 is a rocket ship in a straight line to begin with, immediately firing up to P2, just a tenth short of Raphael Huel's current pole time, and just seeing it hunt down the Alpine. I knew it was quick. As I said, looking at a bunch of straight line speeds, by far the quickest in the GT4 class was the 570S. And with that extra tow, it looked like a different category of car. It almost looked like a GT3 overtaking a GT4. Here comes Anton Klimov across the line. They're going to improve just a little bit back over Callum Kerrigan, and that's going to be the end of their qualifying. They had time to do another lap, but perhaps not the fuel for it. And these Gianettas wishing they had a bit of slipstream. They're kind of all slipstreaming each other. It's Miso Stubna that leads the pack of four. It's not much, but it's a little bit at that distance, so anything will probably help, but hopefully they don't trip over each other in the third sector. Just about everybody on track right now is improving to some degree, so I think we're going to see a bit of a shakeup in the final few moments. Still waiting for Sander Van Kouter and Martin Schaefer to put in valid laps. So say that. Schaefer goes and puts in his. But I think we're about to see a heck of a scramble here, Jesse.
Yeah, Tom Winch got a little out of sorts in the Ginetta, just a little bit. I don't think they even lost time, but it shows how much you're pushing the cars. Everything looks very in control, and then all of a sudden, a little bit of a slip, a little counter steer, and that's the way she goes. Mike Redford has closed the gap to Raphael Huel, and they still have an additional lap. Schaefer's come through. Tom Winch will come through for Apex Predators Racing Team. It is an improvement, but it doesn't move them up the board. Here is Thurlby in the Alpine, the 876. Now, this is one of the cars that I suspect is going to struggle around this particular racetrack with such a long straight. In the twisties, it's going to be absolutely magic, this Alpine, but on the straight, it might be a fish out of water. A further improvement, a 207, 177, but no improvement up the starting order. Sander Van Kouter in the 25 Porsche looking to set their first and only lap of the session, and they will, to finish out qualifying. Results of qualifying on the screen. Andre Baddock over Juraj Svinček. That's your front row in GT3. Nico Kumpu and Jordan Daly in row 2. Shipston, Badowski. Then it's Dalbert, Plata, Youns, and Barrington Jr., the top 10. Outside of the top 10, Varga, Octane, Roscom, Stevenson, Gomez, Edwards, Rybecki, and Richard Whittle. GT4, Raphael Huel over Mike Redford in the end. Boardman, Stubna, row 2. Kerrigan, Klimov is the third row. Behind them, Boss, Schaefer, Winch, Thurlby, Van Kouter, and Picciano will start from dead last on the grid.
I think we have a really exciting lap one ahead of us. I'm already thinking about it. Everybody's stacked up, going down the Mistral straight for the first time. It's going to be basically everybody's about to learn real quick how quick their car is in a straight line in the toe. They're going to learn maybe how fast other cars are around them. I think we're going to see a bit of movement there, and throughout the race, it's just going to be a big opportunity to make moves throughout the race. But before we get to that, our championship standings as we come in to the penultimate round here at Paul Ricard. And it will be starting with the GT3 cars. Joe Dauber leading the field with 153 points. I will say there is a drop round. It has not been applied yet. It will happen after the race today, but this is as the points stand going in. Joe Dauber leading, Martin Lawrence in second position, who is absent this evening. Nico Kumpu's in third. Andrzej Badek is in fourth. Marco Badowski's fifth. McKenna McConnell sixth. Thibaut Roscam in seventh. Tom Shipston eighth. Aaron Jackson ninth. And Juraj Svenček in the Bentley in 10th. And GT4, Raphael Huell leading over Andy Boardman. Mike Redford in third. Sebastian Picano in fourth. Miso Stubna fifth. Tom Winch in sixth. Anton Klimov in seventh. Callum Kerrigan eighth. Nikolai Polyakov in ninth. And Kevin Boss, your top 10 in both championships as we come into this round. A lot of movement, a lot of points still up for grabs, Jesse Lee. I mean, the big story, I feel like, from qualifying, Joe Dauber out of position, down in seventh. If he wants to tie up the championship tonight, he needs to finish third. Bit of movement to go, and I gotta say, not surprised at all to see the Lexus on pole. It was by far the quickest car in a straight line here at Paul Ricard, and the Bentley, I'm a bit impressed, I must admit, but it's such a wonderful grid every single week. I mean, it's 30 cars strong tonight. So many good old-fashioned liveries, so many good old-fashioned cars, and the patented Bibby grid walk might be the thing I will miss most come the end of ACC on RCI, but we still get tonight. We still get one more next week at least. So that's at least good.
Yeah, if you are the developer of any other sim, I'm just going to go ahead and plead directly to you. This camera, a free camera, it's a simple implementation. Just do it. Just do it. It's simple. It makes streams and everything look more dynamic. It gives broadcasters a sort of an extra tool in their tool chest. It's quite simple. How hard could it possibly be to institute a free cam with sort of like a weight to it as it is? And of course, I've used this camera many times over the years. Ash Bibby's making it look effortless. There is sort of like a weird momentum to it that you have to wrap your head around to make it look fluid, but nevertheless, if you are a sim developer, I don't care. I'm talking to iRacing, LMU, AMS2. I'm talking to all of you. For the love of all that is holy, add a free cam to your sims.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. I will stand on the soapbox with you and preach it. And if you do have a free cam, cough, cough, LMU, cough, cough, make it even remotely pilotable. Please just put a little bit of effort into making it function in a way that makes a little bit of sense. Anyways, that's enough of soapbox talk, at least for now. No promise that we won't.
Hey, Jack, get off my soapbox. You know I need that. I need that to see over the booth. Come on. What are you doing?
Hey, I'm fine. I didn't need to be any taller than I am anyways.
I know. Look at you.
It's a final look at some of our GT3s and you know what? I don't think we've asked this question, Jesse. The prettiest GT3 on the grid. What do you think?
Are we talking about livery or manufacturer?
Full package. Your favorite looking car. You know what? Let's say across the grid. Maybe it's a GT4 car, though. I think GT3s are generally prettier. Favorite one that we have here tonight.
Favorite one? You talking about GT4s? Favorite GT4 car? Oh well, I mean, I quite like the SJ&H liveries. The one we're just looking at, as far as GT4, very iconic is the Mike Racing 95, and of course we've got the Callum Kerrigan pink camo car, very iconic as well. And almost on cue, as we were sitting on the grid under very heavy looking skies, the rain has begun. Speaking of sort of iconic RCI liveries, the Wheelie Slow livery, the blue, red, and silver, as it often is displayed, is also incredibly iconic as well. He can put that livery on any car. Well, it was heavy skies. The heavy skies have now let loose, and it is light rain on the grid. Now, that might be a problem here in a few laps because some of the cars were sitting on the jack stands. You could tell because they were elevated off of the racetrack jack for a prolonged period of time. They were waiting to see if it would start raining. Some of the cars dropped quite early, which tells me they were quite confident in their tire choice. The question is, what tire choice did they make? We know that those are dries on Andre Baddock's car because wet tires do not have yellow sidewalls. So those are dry tires on the leader. The track is already greasy, and in 10 minutes, it's going to be medium to heavy rain. Oh, dear.
This is super, super interesting. The fact that, you know, in real life, you have a weather radar. In fact, you can just look up into the sky and be like, yeah, that looks like it's going to start raining. But in a sim, it's a little different. But that's so almost heart-wrenching for Andre Baddock because the track immediately is already to damp. If you're curious what the weather's looking like, you can see the top right of our picture. That's all the information that we have, all the information you have, and all the information the drivers will have as well. So the track is already basically to wet tire conditions. It can run in greasy with slicks, so we might be seeing instantly after this first lap cars coming in changing to a dry tire. Those who got it right, it's going to be a boon to their race. Those who got it wrong, like our pole sitter Jesse Lee, oh, it's going to be an exciting first lap for them.
It's going to be a crazy first lap because we don't know what to expect. We can look at the sidewall and we can tell you with some degree of certainty that they're on dries or wets. Sometimes that will glitch and there is a sync issue that doesn't resolve itself until they come down pit lane. But a lot of times we can just sort of tell this is getting quite damp. It was dry on the grid. It went to greasy immediately, and now it is damp. This track is taking on water as the rain is starting to come down quite a bit heavier, and it's expected to get worse for the next 30 minutes. Anyone on an actual dry tire, they're going to be lucky if they can get through a lap before they come in and do their first pit stop. Now, double-edged sword, you can come in and satisfy the requirements of your first pit stop quite early, but that is going to take some incredible management on your part. But actually, is there, no, there can't be for a two-stop race, there cannot be a pit window, presumably. You must be able to take your stop whenever. If there is a pit limit window, then this is going to be incredibly difficult. I do dare say, as we look at old Mike Honcho himself in the number 3, those are wet tires on that SJ&H number 3.
Yeah, they seem to have gotten it right. And Jesse, just to correct you, there is actually a pit window 20 minutes into the race and 20 minutes before the end of the race. So you won't be able to satisfy your requirements immediately. So
this might be a free stopper.
It might be for those who are on the dry tire, almost certainly. And the interesting thing is,
if Baddock is actually on wet tires and it's a graphical glitch.
Maybe. I think we're about to find out, though. The green flag will wave, and I think we'll be able to tell immediately in turn 1 whether he's on a dry set or a wet set. We're green flag in Paul Ricard. It was dry 5 minutes ago. It is fully wet on the circuit now. A great start from the pole sitter. Everybody's going to stack up a little bit of spray, but not as much as it's about to be. That car, actually, that Lexus looks, well, I was going to say it looks good into turn 1, but that understeer tells me those might be slick tires, and it's only going to get worse for Andre Baddock. He's going to have to fight as hard as he can. Too wide, though, just behind him, Nico Kumpu and Jordan Daly, and Baddock immediately dropping back into the braking zone. 3 wide coming into turn 3, Jordan Daly and Nico Kumpu, a little bit of rubbing, a little bit of racing, but managing to make it through it, and Baddock spun round. He's a little bit out of control, and now everybody in the field is going to have to immediately swerve around the stationary Lexus. He gets going. That is heartbreak for our pole sitter here tonight, and that is instantly a kick in the nuts for his race, Jesse Lee.
Well, I gotta say, I think that answers our question almost immediately and emphatically. Those are dry tires on Andre Baddock's car, so this is looking like a 3-stop race for them. Tom Winch has a drive-through penalty for being out of position on the start, and they're falling back through the field, just getting out of the way, not trying to make things worse. So they will also make 3 trips down the pit lane. Will Tom Winch, one of them, of course, not getting service from the team. If you've just tuned in, the rains came on the starting grid. I mentioned as much that some cars dropped the jacks quite early in the sort of lead up gridding procedure, including your pole sitter Andre Baddock, who has put slick tires on a track that from the pace lap has gotten increasingly wet. We're damp now. It's only going to deteriorate from here. Most of the cars have selected to take the wet Pirelli tires. You can tell the difference because a dry Pirelli has a yellow sidewall and a wet Pirelli has just the black sidewall. And as you can clearly see, all of these cars are on the wet tire, which appears to have been the absolute correct choice. We join your pole sitter, who's going to get spun around again. You know what they say, when it rains, it pours.
Oh, Andrzej Baddock is going to retire from the race after that. He just seemed like he was in the wrong place. He was a bit out of control, and frankly, the car's not going to be able to slow down. So at that point, it's not necessarily their own fault, but couldn't have said it better myself. It is pouring all over Andrzej Baddock's parade. He was in the right car for the circuit and immediately going a bit wrong. I'm noticing as well that Richard Whittle was way behind the pack. Everybody who's in pit lane now ultimately are going to be ones that are changing off, but I saw Whittle's Ferrari way down. I don't know if there was an issue. He's not on a dry set of tires. He's on the wet, so something clearly going wrong with him at the start of the race, because he finds himself again, I feel like we see this fairly regularly, that he's fighting through the GT4 field, but just about everybody getting it right in the GT field, and well, in both GT fields, I should say. As a result, the fight for the front has completely changed its look. Juraj Svenček has taken the lead of the race, and Jordan Daly is reveling in these conditions just a little bit. He got past at the start, and now he's looking to get through again on Svenček. He's going to need to keep his mirrors pointed in the correct direction, because Nico Kumpu is not going to sit and let this go by. Kumpu's around, and he's in the middle of the circuit, and he's just going to have to sit there. Marco Badowski, fortunately, not getting spun around, but you can see just behind everybody drifting around the Porsches round. It's all kicked off here, Jesse Lee.
Think about Roscom has spun around as well, trying to avoid, and has spun again as the 96. A couple of scary moments there, 3 wide, and a huge hit for Badowski. Roscom spins the car twice, but other than that, I think they're going to get away with it. And that is changeable conditions. You were just talking about Richard Whittle and them falling down the grid. I think it's just the changeable conditions, Jeff.
I think you're absolutely right. It's something where the track is changing. Honestly, at this point, corner by corner, it's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to find what line works for you. You're going to have to understand where you have more grip and sort of where the car is comfortable. Joe Daubers found himself up a couple of positions in these changeable conditions, doing pretty well in their Ferrari. But no, I think you're right. It's not a big error, but it's just the slight one. Put a little bit offline at that point, and in a mid-engine car for Nico Kumpu, and he just finds himself facing slightly the wrong way in a really not opportune position. But coming down the straight, we're getting our first view of what it looks like.
You can see it. You can see the suck.
High-powered cars. The suck is visible. Is Joe Dauber going to step out? He is going to. Marco Badowski is going to hold the inside of that 296. Excuse me, that 488. He's going to have a lot more pushes. They're going to come in to turn number 8. I think Dauber, if he can keep this on track, he's going to make it stick. He does just about make that one stick. Our first move down the Mistral tonight, Jesse Lee.
Yeah, it was very nice indeed, but it's going to go wrong. He's going to go wide here, and it's going to allow Joe Dauber back in front. You can see the damage on the front of that T-Monkey Racing Audi as that severe contact from earlier in the lap. It certainly, though, hadn't seemed to have hindered him there as he's able to make the repass on Joe Dauber. Joe Dauber is going to have to rethink that one and do it all over again. Meanwhile, while all of that was going down, this driver just took the lead of the race. He's just a gamer. He's just the leader. Jordan Daly in the 197 has taken the lead at Paul Ricard.
Jordan Daly has picked this sim back up for the first time in admittedly a long time. His first race at Barcelona was, I would say, pretty solid. It was, I believe, a top 5 finish for him. He was fighting all the way with a Nissan GTR, and last week at Donington finished in second and thinking, you know, let's try to do one better. The stars have kind of aligned for him a little bit, and he's found himself at the lead, immediately having to make his way through on a bit of GT traffic. They're giving each other just enough room up there at the top of the field, but no, he is just a gamer, this guy. A gamer and a swell human being is Jordan Daly, and if he can set himself up, get a little bit of distance, he's really going to be able to play whatever strategy game he wants tonight. Jesse, clearly not a big strategy choice to make. It's raining. You got to take tires. You got to take fuel twice. So everybody roughly on the same, but he can sort of think as long as hard as he needs to if he's able to open this gap.
Jordan Daly, I've just thought about this. Jordan Daly is as close to a Dale Earnhardt or Michael Schumacher as we have here in RCI. And depending on how you feel about those two racing greats will determine how you feel about Jordan Daly. He doesn't take any guff from anyone. He's an intense racing driver is I think the best way to describe him, and that's just the way he is. He's definitely, and this is one thing nobody could ever take away from the British driver, he is absolutely enthralling to watch on the racetrack. Now with the lead, trying to lose Juraj Svinček and drive off into the, well, it's not really a sunset because it is raining.
He's going to try and do his best. Nico Kumpu, after being a bit out of shape and now a bit bruised and battered as a result of parking perpendicular on the apex of the corner, is finding himself trying to work his way up. He's behind the Mustang of Ted Edwards, and he's just recently got through on the Jag of Will Stevenson. There was sort of the Jag and the Mustang, they were sort of having a bit of a measuring contest, trying to figure out who was faster in a straight line, since they're both quite quick. Naturally, entirely flummoxed by the Lexus. They weren't even close, but seems in the wet conditions, though, it's going to be a bit tricky for the both of them. Billy Octane, speaking of drivers we haven't seen on ACC, I don't even know if we've seen him ever. That's probably not entirely true, but it's been a many moons since Billy Octane has come back. I asked him at the start of the season, are you going to come back and do some ACC? He emphatically said, no, I don't feel like doing that. I don't know what changed, but boy, am I happy to see him.
Yeah, Billy Octane, always nice to have the SJ and H pair of Billy Octane and Barrington Jr., as he's being called, on the racetrack. Longtime competitors and friends, mates off the racetrack, and sometimes mates on the racetrack. They've run 1-2 and double podiumed a bunch, especially in the Night Out Championship and in the Monday Champs in the past. But Billy Octane finding it a little bit difficult in signs that time. Is going to give up a spot to Gomez in the BMW. Might give up another one here to Nico Kumpu, who I've just realized is massively out of position. Certainly one of the cars that had issues a few laps ago. This race only 10 minutes old, and it has provided us so much intrigue thus far. Unfortunately for Ted Edwards, unable to make any of those advantageous moves for himself. Still stuck behind Billy Octane as several cars do make their way through. Daly is setting sail. I mean that literally and figuratively with the weather, pun absolutely intended. A second in that lap alone, Jordan Daly has added to the total. 1.7 in front of Uri Svinček. Tom Shipston might be closing in on Svinček, you know, for P2. Dauber hanging out in fourth, but we'll keep an eye on that. 4 seconds the gap between Dauber and third place. Might Dauber still have something to say with 80 minutes left in the penultimate round of the Mini British GT Championship? Mike Redford has the lead in GT4 over Boardman. Stubna the top 3. Richard Whittle has brought the ailing 957 Whittle's Wizards Ferrari to the pit lane. Now that's an unscheduled stop, of course, as we haven't made it to the pit window. Every team required to take 2 stops tonight.
Something I'm noticing as well is, speaking of GT4s, Raphael Huel, out of position drivers. He's down a few spots from where we saw him at the start of the race, so changing conditions maybe not working out for this Porsche GT4, as that's, I'm not even 100% sure who is in that Porsche is moving around at random intervals on this racing circuit, but not going particularly well. Still a long time to go. Immediately, Jesse, I'm looking at the top right. I'm looking at the weather radar. 30 minutes from now, the rain will decrease. Because this race is a little extra long, we get that extra half hour. We might be looking at a full wet to dry transition. So if drivers are getting comfortable now, they're about to get probably a little bit less comfortable in the next half hour.
I think it's important that I explain how weather is calculated and works in ACC, because if you're used to weather systems like they have in LMU or AMS2, where you can tell the weather what to do and when you want it to do it and how hard you want it to do it, that isn't the way it works in ACC. ACC's weather is a calculation at best. You insert parameters and then it randomly calculates what it's going to do. So you can suggest it do something and it will do the exact opposite. We always joke that the R in RCI actually stands for Raining Club International. We've had a couple of famous incidents, one of which happened here at Paul Ricard. Our old event manager, Tom Bryant, once set a 1% rain probability chance here at Paul Ricard. It was meant to be blazing sunshine, blazingly hot. It was supposed to test the tires and the drivers, and what we actually got was a windy, cool race. We hit that 1%. It was actually less than 1% according to the weather calculator, and we've had the opposite of that happen. We were supposed to have a wet weather Bathurst race around Mount Panorama, and it was bone dry for 12 consecutive hours. Just absolutely improbable. So while you can suggest what the weather should do in your ACC server, the server is going to act on its own free will. So this is not something any of the team's drivers, event admins, us in the booth, nobody could have predicted that the weather was going to do this. As a matter of fact, the only thing you can predict about the weather in ACC is that you can't predict it at all.
I think there's some amount of beauty to that, is that, you know, you can make an unpredictable bit of weather and it's going to be extra unpredictable. Nico Kumpu couldn't predict that he'd find himself side by side the first 15 minutes with Rybecki fighting over 9th position, but the massive out-dragging by the Aston Martin V12 Vantage, the old spec, absolutely brutalizing Kumpu's 296. We say it's unfair, but let's see. Couple of corners coming up. I have a feeling, even as wounded as that Ferrari 488 GT3 is probably going to catch up a reasonable bit. Actually, immediately on the brakes, catching up, and a little bit closer. But if he doesn't go for a move now, actually, he's done it. I was going to say, if he doesn't go for a move now, he's going to be just a fish in a barrel down the straight, but he's going to get it done. Nico Kumpu, a couple corners early before the main straight. He's a little bit wayward, but now with the V12 on his tail, Jesse Lee, I think it might be a foregone conclusion by the time they get to the end of the straight for turn number 8.
Hear the Jaws music, and it's a V12 singing out down the Mistral straight down the inside is Vulture Rybecki around Nico Kumpu as he gets just clear and swaps all the way back to the left side of the track for Sainz Corner. And that is the V12, and that is the only introduction you need to that particular car. But immediately right back on it is Kumpu down the inside and gets it done. Mike Gomez follow their way through a hip and shoulder check and a half spin for Hugo Gomez in the number 14 BMW, as they will lose several more spots. Ted Edwards finally makes up a spot, but still not on Billy Octane, as they're still line astern 2 or 3 laps later. Billy Octane opens up the steering, but gets the better run out of the corner. Jack, I think the tale of the day is just how quickly things can change. Rybecki and Kumpu racing each other quite hard indeed, and now all of a sudden the BMW of Gomez finds themselves out several positions somehow.
Yeah, finally a bit of GT4 down the main straight. We've been talking about how quick the GT3s are. Sebastian Picano versus the V8 powered Camaro GT4R driven by Miso Stubna. Wasn't really expecting to see any Alpine out drag anything down the main straight, but Sebastian Picano's done it after starting from the back of the grid, finding themselves up a couple of positions, and in fact inside the top 4 in GT4, off to an absolutely stellar start. And Picano, when they've been here, Jesse, they've been a force to be reckoned with inside of that Alpine, and I think sporting a slightly different livery than the one we're used to seeing, and it looks rather grand. Still the Alpine Esports Series team that it's under, but I'm a fan. It looks good, even in sort of grayish, rather wet conditions. It's looking all right tonight.
Yeah, looking absolutely sharp in the livery department and on the race course. Another position gained for Picano, who did not enjoy qualifying today. Had to watch it from the garage. Has made up several spots. Boardman still leads Redford, but now Picano third in the GT4 class. Middle of GT3, however, Ted Edwards continuing to try and figure out Billy Octane. Now, those two are not in communication right now with each other, but these two teams do partner up a lot, SJ&H and Race Ventura, so that might explain why Ted is trying to pick his battles quite smoothly here, as Will Stevenson gets close, has a little sniff, and at the same time Billy Octane goes wide. Side by side here, Octane and Edwards, and for a moment it was side by side between Stevenson and Gomez. Ted Edwards finally pokes his head through. It is going to get through. Will Stevenson trying to find their way. They're going to be on the outside here, but if they can get the run, this might be just about all she wrote. The Maserati goes off of the race course. Was Henry hoovering the outskirts of the track? They're going to come into pit lane. That's an unscheduled stop for the Maserati. Meanwhile, this 4-way GT3 battle continues in the 1.
It was 2x2 Noah's Ark style, except the flood already started coming. It was very well picked by Ted Edwards to finally find his way through. He really had to work for it. Will Stevenson, very opportunistic. He might have another opportunity here on the brakes in the Jag. He's going to try to do it against the 488, but he's not quite able to get through Hugo Gomez as well. Thinking about it, he was opportunistic earlier. It went a little bit wrong for him. I think he's going to be a little bit more patient, perhaps. This all, though, has meant that for the first time, Ted Edwards has been able to step ahead just a bit. But how are things going to look down the straight? They're pretty much equal distances apart. I know the Jag is quite quick. I'm pretty sure it's a little bit quicker than that Ferrari, though I do know Billy Octane's Ferrari in particular has been a bit of a rocket ship, so some sort of setup change has been done to that. And, well, most of the way down the straight, they're still just about even. I think the only difference is I think Billy Octane might be pulling away just a bit. That's unbelievable speed from the Ferrari, but not so great on the brakes. Here comes Will Stevenson. Third, they're going to come into the long right-hander of turn 9, and is Stevenson going to be able to keep it in? I think he is. Billy Octane washing super wide. He was hoping to not lose 1 position. Instead, he's going to lose 2.
That's how quickly it can change down the Mistral straight. Will Stevenson's driving his Jag a little bit further into the middle of the pack. We'll be hoping, of course, for a top 10. Has a little bit more work to do. I tell you what got me down that straight, it wasn't the Octane Stevenson sort of train. It was how close Hugo Gomez got to the back of Will Stevenson in the BMW. I didn't expect the M4 to have the pull on the both of them, but here we are. That's exactly what happened with the number 14, as they seem to have had the legs just a little bit. Leaders, actually the entire field in GT3, are fixing to start to get into the meat of the GT4 field, and that's touch and go at the best of times, and even more so, especially in this weather. Another couple of laps, and Jordan Daly will be into them. Kevin Boss will be the next car that Daly has to pass, and you can see Boss up the road just a little bit, but then it's a gaggle of the leaders in GT4.
Just looking at the timing screen, we're missing suddenly a GT3 driver. Timo Roskam, he pulled into pit lane just a moment ago and is now completely disappeared. He's retired from this race. We saw a little bit of struggles with him in the opening moments, and I think it wasn't getting any easier. So Timo deciding maybe perhaps too much struggle in my Porsche in this rain, so maybe I'll park it for the evening. We've lost a couple of drivers immediately. It's amazing how much everybody's cars are moving around underneath them. I mean, you see the way that Daly's shimmying and shaking just about everywhere, but he's still going quicker than everybody else. Bit of a sniff through on Kevin Boss. He says, I would awfully like to come through here. These two I know are talking to each other, so maybe a word or two exchanged. Some words that maybe couldn't be broadcast, perhaps, Jesse Lee, but I'm surprised. Nico Kumpu, he's been storming back up the field. He's a bit damaged, but he's taken the fastest lap of the race in the last couple of moments.
Yep, Nico Kumpu is setting the quick lap. Theobald Roskam is dropping anchor, and Will Stevenson is going for a spin after contact with Billy Octane.
It's a little bit interesting because Will sort of was driving through it. From that camera view, it looked like it was perfectly normal, and then suddenly there's a Ferrari on the exit of the corner. I think we'll see what happened a few moments after that. It's Cal Barrington Jr. going a bit wide and maybe hoping to find themselves wide. I think maybe Hugo Gomez giving him a little bit of assistance to get out there, but the SJ&H Ferraris have swapped position as a result. So Cal Barrington Jr., which for those of you who enjoy yourself Talladega Nights, Legend of Ricky Bobby, might find that name suspiciously familiar. That's all I will say about that.
I don't know what you're talking about. I believe it legally distinct is what you're meaning to say there, Jack.
Of course, legally. No, actually, no relation. I think it's just coincidence or something of the like. But 1, 2, 3 Ferraris down the main straight. Of course, that's Richard Whittle, who's not on the same lap, but is still finding himself getting some pull down the main straight. He's going to drop back on the brakes, as he does do, well, kind of, sort of. I think he's fighting to unlap himself, maybe have a little bit of fun in the wet weather, play in the rain as they do. But it's looking like maybe an opportunity for Cal to come through, but excuse me, I've been calling that Richard Whittle. That's Peter Varga. They are on the same lap. My apologies. Both red Ferraris. I don't know, it's rainy. My vision's very bad. I don't know, I'm running out of excuses, Jesse, save me.
Racing drivers never run out of excuses, and neither do we in the commentary box. Richard Whittle also, I believe, they have come into port for today and will take no further part in the race. I did see a car come down pit lane. I didn't quite catch the number as we were calling side-by-side action at the time, but just another vehicle looking for port in the stormy seas. That is Paul Ricard here today, but there may be hope on the horizon, because in less than 30 minutes now, I'm suggesting in about 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to get light rain. And what that's going to do with this many cars around the racetrack is it is going to sort of dry it up a little bit. It's still going to be raining, yes, but there will be a drier line forming. And I want to talk about strategy for a moment, Jack, if I may. If I was an engineer right now I would tell my driver to come in, pack the car full of fuel, and maybe don't change tires, because in about 30 minutes or so, we're going to get that lighter rain. The track's going to go through a transition again. There is the possibility that you can time your second stop to put on dry tires if the track improves enough. And even if it doesn't, you can come in and put on a fresh set of wets. Will feel very good for the end of the race, and it'll take you all the way through. I think what we're seeing juxtaposed to that is everyone staying out and waiting and seeing. But if I was an engineer and I was stuck in, if I was Nico Kumpu or Ted Edwards, I'd be gambling right now. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I think I completely agree with you. I mean, it gives yourself the most amount of options. Of course, you have to stop twice in this 40-minute window. Some more, perhaps, bump and tickle, maybe some GT4 and GT3. It's just a little bit of making your way around the slower class car, and maybe one not wanting to give way, maybe one sliding into the other. I mean, it's difficult enough in these conditions, leave alone when you have a bit of inter-car, multi-class battling. But no, I think absolutely that's the strategy to be. That was a bit of drifting, but I think that Cal Barrington Jr., Jesse, might be listening to us, or perhaps
if it ain't old Mike Concho coming into the pit lane.
There's a couple of cars. Hugo Gomez as well in. Juraj Svenček, Marko Badowski. Svenček coming in is an interesting call from second place. I mean, we've been saying it week after week. You're not going to beat the guy who's in first by playing the same game as them. You got to offset yourself in some way. But I think you open up the best possible option, because if you stop, you get fresh tires, you take them for the full 37.5 minutes now, and depending on where you're looking after those 37 minutes, you have the best picture of anybody else, the best opportunity to change onto the right tire, because now the less heavy rain, that is just a lot of drifting by Sebastian Picano. Corner after corner, still doing it. I think those tires are going to need to be changed pretty soon, because even in the wet, you're scrubbing them doing it like that. But 10 minutes now to the lesser rain, Jesse, so we don't know if the track's going to start drying out once that happens. It couldn't be light rain to the end of the race. The track could never dry out. We don't know that. The drivers don't know that critically, but your strategy is going to give you the best opportunity to make the best call. A late dive into the final corner for Sebastian Picano on Miso Stubney. He had to overtake him once before down the Mistral straight. He's going to try it one more time, but the straight line of that Camaro, it's like what we saw with the V12 Aston Martin a few minutes ago. It's almost a little bit unfair.
Yeah, all that good work from Picciano, and it gets undone by an American V8. Leaders coming into the pit lane. Jordan Daly in this time with Imo Plata. Tom Shipston takes over the lead of the race with Joe Dauber also staying out. Yalds has also stayed out in the Bentley as well. And everyone now on different strategy. I was just looking up and down the board. It is split. And I think it's a split between the two strategies we mentioned earlier. Some coming in now wanting a full tool chest whenever it does start to let up, the rain that is. And others are rolling the dice that potentially, because if you are staying out right now, what you are saying is, my car's fine, I'm running well, I don't think it's going to get dry enough to matter. But even still, I would expect most people to come in the next couple of laps, because typically what you want to do in a two-stop race is split it into thirds anyway. But I do like coming in a few laps early, because if it does dry out, you give yourself that opportunity to take an advantageous tire stop to put on the slick Pirelli tires. Nico Kumpu working over Volcher Rybecki for fourth down the inside in signs. Kumpu's going to take it. Not much of a fight from Rybecki there, just kind of letting the Ferrari have the spot.
Yeah, they've been fighting over the same bit of circuit for a while. That's the first time that it really seems like that Kumpu had the big throw to go. Tom Winch, a stop-and-go 30 for what I can only imagine is extreme speeding into the pit lane. And Schaefer as well had a drive-through penalty. Of course, Tom Winch had the drive-through at the start of the race for either being out of position, maybe speeding a bit during the formation. I can't say. I would imagine that that's a separate penalty. I don't think he could go this long without hearing from our broadcaster that maybe he had a DT before this, like a few moments before this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if penalties stack.
They can. So a couple of things that could have occurred. He could have gotten a drive-through penalty for minor speeding in the pit lane, a kilometer or two. You can get a stop and go 30 for major speeding in pit lane. The ultimate penalty for speeding in the pit lane, excessive speeding, gets you a disqualification, of course. Schaefer also with the drive-through, I suspect, for speeding in the pit lane. But what happens, the way I understand it, Jack, is if you get a drive-through for a minor speeding violation and then pick up a subsequent penalty, I think it hides the first penalty and covers it up with a more massive penalty. I've been corrected on this a few times, but I think it can get converted or covered up. So he's had a penalty and he's made it worse, essentially, for the viewers at home by getting an additional penalty that has now compounded into a stop and go 30. And once he serves a stop and go 30, then we'll see if the other penalty, the lesser penalty, still exists, or we'll get it confirmed if it is a compounding penalty. Speaking of that, another one, drive-through penalty for Picciano. That is again speeding in the pit lane.
Jesse, I think you can add investigative journalists on your resume if you so choose, because I think
I'm really good at
right
saying if and, yeah.
It do be like that sometimes, and I think we'll only get our answer. Tom Winch is peeling into pit lane now. I wonder if the stop and go 30 will disappear and a drive-through perhaps will take its place, or maybe that will just wipe out the penalties altogether. I sort of hope for Tom Winch's sake that it's just the stop and go 30, because that's just, I don't know, it's a bit of salt in the wound, a bit much if you ask me. But Sebastian Picciano running really, really well up into the top 5, starting from the back of the GT4 grid, is going to get knocked back down again. It's not the worst pit lane on the calendar to get a drive-through for. That, of course, being Spa with its combined pit lanes. Not many things worse than that in life. Marco Badowski and Matthew Yudes both went into pit lane at roughly the same time and now are fighting on the way out. A few more drivers staying out, but I think most of them now going in. Nico Kumpu in pit lane along with Billy Octane and Tom Shipston. So the order is not quite done being shuffled. Joe Dauber going very, very long. I think he's going to gamble on either greatness or not if he's trying to sew this championship up here tonight. The Team Monkey Audi R8 versus the, well, I'm just going to call it the Gulf livery, the Gulf colored Boatley, which comes into its own in the rain, as we've seen many, many times, and also looks almost more proper in the wet. I don't understand how that makes sense, because it is, after all, a racing car and not a ship for sailing. But I don't know, it's big, it's bulky, and it sort of wafts like boats.
Well, they call it the Boatley for a reason, that is for sure. I'm trying to make sense of the Dauber Varga pit strategy here, and I think I've worked it out. They're actually doing the inverse of the strategy that I proposed. They're going as long as possible. Why are they doing that? Because they want to get to a point where they see the weather after the rain starts to taper off. And if you pay attention to the top right corner of the screen, the weather widget, it is going to lessen for a while, some 15 minutes or so, and then it is going to pick up again. And that is what Dauber and Varga have seen. They've been playing the long game, and they'll continue to do that. So I don't think we're going to get a dry tire here. I don't think anyone that came in already, I don't think their strategy is blown. I think that was the safe option, the one that I suggested, the one that most of the drivers did. I think the bold option is what Dauber and Varga has done, because you sort of handcuff yourself to a strategy. But it isn't the end of the world, especially knowing that in 30 minutes the rain is going to pick up again. We're going to have more medium rain after it lightens. That kind of puts your mind at ease. Okay, we're going to stay on the wets. This is what the strategy is going to be. So in 30 minutes, the rain will start to pick up again as the wild weather day here at the port of Paul Ricard, as I'm going to refer to it, continues.
Yeah, Nico Kumpu, I think, made a mistake just a moment ago, or maybe that's where he was released from pit lane. I was expecting him a bit further ahead than that, but he's decided to immediately come out or come back from whatever he was doing to get to the business of overtaking, because he went by Ted Edwards a moment ago and is already shaping himself up. He looks ship-shape to get on by the next Ferrari on the list of Billy Octane. It seems that the Speed Juice and Horseflow Ferraris have swapped positions again at some point. Could have been during the pit stop, but we'll see what Kumpu can do. I will say, Jesse, that 488 looking very, very fresh. Now I think all the damage was repaired, which is perhaps why they were so far back. If I take a look, yes, their pit stop was about 10 seconds longer than anybody else's. So I'm going to say damage repair, fresh car, well done. Kumpu is on the hunt.
It's a risk assessment. Sometimes it's not worth it to repair it. You just sort of have to accept that your car, especially an LMU partner, you'll know there's a lot of times where your car's a little damaged, a little scuffed, and you just accept it. You just drive it like that because it's not worth the time in pit lane to fix it. But it's risk management and assessment, and I think that it was done really well here on the Ferrari to get it repaired, because now damage is repaired. You can go out there and basically it's a refresh. The car's back the way it should, and you can go and hunt, and that's exactly what you can see going on now. Results of pit stop 1. Mike Concho back out in front of Billy Octane. That was the way that they were prior to the stop and prior to the shuffle, you'll remember, when Barrington got behind Octane, but they've now reversed back to their original positions. Kumpu now continuing to try and gather their 256 rebound racing Ferrari up, now letting Ted Edwards through in the Race Ventura Ford Mustang. Down a spot here, Kumpu down to 14th.
It's just ebb and flow. It's so much changing in this race at any given opportunity. I mean, one moment somebody somewhere, they might be backwards, they might be in a fight, they might be suddenly out of it. I mean, the fastest lap has been traded over and over again. Juraj Svenček out of pit lane has been the latest to take it. Peter Vargas is now taking the lead of this race. Joe Dauber came in this past lap, is now in 5th place, so I think gaining maybe a little bit of grounds, enough to be right up the back of Tom Shipston after the first pit stop. Andy Boardman still leads in GT4. Mike Redford's behind. Raphael Huell has made his way back up to 3rd position. Stubnut and Kerrigan, your top 5 there. I think it is just going to be Peter Varga, the last of the pit stoppers. So this is there or thereabouts your results as we get into the first 40 minutes. Still 51 to go. Weather changing just a bit. The rain has lightened just a tad, but it looks like it's going to pick up again. And Jesse's still ringing in my ears. I do see that Andrzej Badek is in our YouTube chat talking about that he made the mistake of going on dries. He saw the weather. It said it would rain in 10 minutes. He dropped the car down, and it started raining during the moments before the formation lap. I don't know if I've ever quite seen anything like that. That is peak drama, peak race start drama. Is you start seeing drops on the
Redford
moments.
And Boardman.
It is Redford and Boardman. Let's see what happened to them. Oh, it might be GT3's involvement
Mike Redford.
here. No.
Mike Redford loses it simultaneously with Billy Octane without contact, it looks like.
I think so. Synchronized
I thought for sure.
Spin. Oh, there he is sitting there. And then Will Stevenson comes across him just suddenly on the track, and he spins as well. So that's super strange.
Yeah, I think what you saw there in the background of the Billy Octane incident was Mike Redford in the Mike Racing 95 McLaren, one of the leading cars in Look at the red and black car also spinning, and then the Jaguar comes in out of nowhere, has no place to go, and slams into the 95 McLaren GT4 car. And that's what happened there. It was synchronized spinning and just wrong place at the wrong time for Will Stevenson.
That's such a shame. I do think from that camera angle, it really looked like that Billy Octane was helped around by the Ford Mustang driven by Ted Edwards. It wasn't much. It was a tiny tap, but it was enough momentum with that and the bouncy physics that ACC are known for. I think it just sent the SJ&H car around, and you do see that sometimes. You see a bit of synchronized spinning. I don't know what it is. It happens more often than I'd care to admit to myself. In fact, I was doing a race yesterday where every time I spun, somebody else who was right behind me seemed to spin with me. So never lost a position. We did it 3 times in 1 lap. It was a little bit shameful, but it was a little bit funny. I don't know how it happens, but it just seems to be one of those things that always happens in a racing sim.
Yeah, well, the sort of story of the day is the weather and how it's played into the race. And for the race pole sitter, Baddock, talking about his mistake and misreading the weather widget, that is sort of a common problem going back to that, Jack, is that you kind of sit and wait. And I mentioned that there were a lot of drivers. I noticed there was a lot of the veteran drivers like Svinček and Rybecki who didn't drop off the jack stands, and they waited out that full minute on the starting grid. And that's what a veteran does, because you know that at most the weather was 10 minutes away, but you don't actually know how close it is. It's maximum 10 minutes, but it could be 1 minute away. And a veteran kind of knows that and wants to leave their tire choice to the very, very last second, Formula One style, and it will catch you out. We've seen that on more than a couple of occasions. I remember a race at Misano once where nearly half the field got it wrong, and it created this horrible parking lot situation where at the end of lap 1, half the field came into pit. Then, of course, on top of that, compounding issues, the weather was changeable, and we ended up with a dry racetrack. Anyway, it can be absolutely brutal, and it was for Baddock today.
It's one of those things, you're riding high. I feel like people say that a lot of sim racing, and I'd absolutely agree with them. The highs are really high. The lows are really, really low. You put on a pole position, you got a really comfortable spot at the start of a race, and then the weather just comes out and takes the wind right out of your sails, and it's just super, super unfortunate. But there's always another day, and in Andras Baddock's case, there's always another round. We do have our finale at Brands Hatch next week. I'm not aware of any crazy weather, not aware of anything crazy. It's a good old 60-minute sprint to end off Mondays here on ACC. Just to be clear, Mondays are not going anywhere. They are shifting away from Assetto Corsa Competizione and moving over to Le Mans Ultimate. The details for that championship will be shared during the broadcast, and that will open as well next week, just before the race. I know exactly what it's going to be, and I promised my good friend Kevin Boss that I will not leak it. And Kevin, if you're watching this back, I didn't, and I won't.
There you go. Jack gets his good boy coin for the day, I think. Well, I'm not going to leak any of the upcoming championships. I am going to tell you about the ones that have already been announced. If you like hearing Jack and me talk about racing, well, we'll be live on Thursday for LMP2 Sprint Series, round number 2. Round 1 was absolutely enthralling, and round 2 surely will continue that trend. Of course, if ACC is more your style, well, then you can sign up for the finale at Brands Hatch next Monday. And even still, the 3 hours of Nordschleife in ACC, more than enough spots to sign up. That race runs on July 25th. And of course, there is the little thing that we're going to do this Saturday, kind of an important day for you and me, Jack. It is, of course, the 310 miles of Le Mans on LMU. I think there's a handful of spots still open, but only just a couple of spots open for that Le Mans race in LMU. But some endurance racing in both sims, some sprint racing in both sims. Go to SimGrid, follow the link in the description, check out all the racing that we have to offer. Sign up today. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about things that go on around RCI, we'll take a moment to thank our wonderful, wonderful partners that help us do things. I mean, any good race, any good racing driver is going to have a tricky day without a good setup. If you're looking for the place to go for the best setups in the business, head over to Coach Dave Delta. They've got setups for you. They've got helpful apps and also coaching that is available if you want to do anything you can do to climb up the sim racing ladder. These two going to go too wide into the braking zone for turn 3. Like for like machinery. Are they like for like on the brakes? Not quite. Cal Barrington Jr. is going to get on through. I thought it was going to look a little bit easier than that, but no, maybe not. Spoke a little bit too soon, but oh man, we still have so much more to go tonight, and I am absolutely thrilled about that. Green Man Gaming is your place to go if you want PC games on the cheap. They're currently running their summer sale. If you think the Steam summer sale is good, you should check out the Green Man Gaming summer sale, because all kinds of games are on extra discount, including brand new releases, including all the stuff you love to do. Moser Racing, your place to go for high quality direct drive hardware that doesn't break the bank. I can attest to what they have personally because I run Moser gear. I know many other people that do, and I have no complaints. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. Final thank you to Motorsport UK for having us on their recommended list of esports communities, and thank you to all of them. If you're interested in any of our partners or what they do, all of their links will be in the description. Jesse Lee, the Ferraris, it seems like a bit of a Ferrari party tonight, and they're giving us all flavors of action.
Yeah, all sorts. Fast Ferraris, sideways Ferraris, mixed strategy, and backwards Ferraris as well. They're all over the place. They were 1, 2, 3, 4 during the first pit stop cycle that we saw for just a little while. Jordan Daly continues to lead in the Just Gamers 197 AMG over Uri Svinček's Bentley in the 107. That gap was as big as 4 or 5 seconds, but after the pit stop, it was 1.5. It's down to 1.3 seconds as Uri is the quickest car on the racetrack. That's what the magenta number means. Joe Dauber unable to close in on the top 2. It was 4 seconds before the pit stop. It's 4 seconds now. 999 Ferrari looking like, unless something happens, they're going to be third. A little hip and shoulder check. Ted Edwards gets away with it into 12th on Peter Varga. Flash of the lights from Varga to Edwards, letting him know that that was not on. That was a little too much for me. Ted Edwards will drive off into the sunset, hopefully, and away from Varga's Ferrari. Chipston and Youns, the top 5. Plata, Badowski, Kumpu, and this man, Vulture Rybacki, the connection lost V12. Feels like they've been locked in an internal, or not an internal, but an eternal battle between themselves and Hugo Gomez this entire race, sort of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object.
It just kind of feel like that. And there's so many stories I've heard about the V12 Aston Martin, especially on Bathurst, where ultimately its job is fire down the straight, the mountain section's too narrow to get overtaken, and then fire down the back straight. And it's not quite like that tonight, but it seems a little bit like that's probably how Hugo Gomez felt. Before that, it was Nico Kumpu, but fortunately he's scampered a bit up the road. Speaking of Uri Svinček and their fastest lap, they have been slowly picking away at the gap for the lead of the race. It was 1.5 seconds a few moments ago. It's now for the first time under 1 second. Lap time's very close that last one between Jordan Daly and Svinček. Only about 3/10, a little bit under 3/10 between the three of them, but that's enough between the two of them. Excuse me. That's enough to get close. That's enough to critically near into that slipstream. And for the Mercedes-AMG GT3, it is not the quickest car in a straight line. The Bentley is a little bit quicker, and in the slipstream, well, it might be a bit of game over there on the straight for Jordan Daly, but a bit of management, perhaps a bit of, you know, late race surge or mid-race surge for Juraj Svenček. I don't know. He was there at the beginning. He backed off, but coming out of the pit stops, Jesse Lee, Juraj Svenček has been really, really quick in that Bentley.
Yeah, he certainly has. It might be the confidence a little bit too with the weather. Keep in mind, we're only experiencing light rain right now. It will get a bit heavier, and it's just possible that Svenček's car, Svenček's setup, any changes he made in the pit lane as well, might just be more beneficial right now. It also could be that Daly's just sort of minding his own. He's tiptoeing just a little bit in these sort of changeable conditions. It doesn't look like much on the cameras, but I promise you, for whatever reason in ACC, even minute changes in ACC's weather mean a lot. It's not like other sims where it's all or nothing. There's subtle differences, and it's just impossible to explain with the weather changing. Just like the raining harder matters, to put it as simply as possible. Tom Lynch has had a rough day. Some penalties down and in and out of pit lane. Picciano as well, but both those cars have continued. This could get quite dicey indeed. 3 wide with a GT4, and somehow they all survive it. But it looks like Hugo is going to take that spot. No, Rybecki got back through, look.
I'm not sure how, I'm not sure why, but it's happened. Them going 3 wide in there, I mean, I did make a little bit of a noise. I was a little bit nervous, but they managed to make it out. And clearly, towards the end of it, Hugo Gomez must have made another mistake. Here's Varga and Ted Edwards again, more hip and shoulder between the two. It's very similar to the incident we saw earlier on. That time, a little bit different. I think they're just playing for keeps at this point. But yeah, no, Gomez, he cut through. He felt like he had it, but I think maybe behind the Alpine, maybe getting held up in the last couple of corners in Sector 3 meant that the V12, unfortunately for the BMW, is back ahead. And well, you can see it just at the front of that picture there. It's scampering away down the straights, and I think if they start fighting further, see Cal Barrington Jr. is on the back of them, but these two, Edwards and Varga, it might go from a 2 to a 3 to a 5-way battle here at the half distance.
Of course, we are just now getting over the halfway distance part of the race. It feels like we've been racing for an hour, and that's because we almost have been. This 90-minute penultimate round here at Paul Ricard, and just genius work by event manager Kevin Voss, in my opinion, because this race in this configuration certainly deserved 90 minutes, and I have a feeling it's going to take all 90 of those minutes to decide both of the classes. Boardman does have a significant lead over Raphael Huell for the moment. Here is the Grease Weasel 69, clean sailing for that Aston Martin. Nothing doing there as Raphael Huell in the number 21 Porsche continues to give chase some 12 seconds down. But if there's one thing we know, Jack, is that no lead in these conditions, as changeable as they are and as dynamic as this racetrack and the competition is, no lead is safe, because no lead has been tonight. And just when you get comfortable and confident, that is when trouble seems to strike. The lead two back together again for the first time since the opening laps when Daly took the lead. Svenček is there.
He is indeed. It's coming to, I just think that now that the track has dried out a little bit, and it is going to seem to remain about this level of wetness until the rain picks up in another few minutes, the Bentley's just a bit better. And Jordan Daly is going to have to hang on as long as he can. He's, I think at this point, maybe hoping, maybe praying that the rain picks up, the circuit goes back to full wet conditions so that he can gain a bit of a lead. But he's absolutely not going to give this one up. Neither of these two are going to buckle under the pressure. Two great names in the halls and annals of RCI history. So I think we're up for maybe a bit of a slow burn, but a hard fight between them. And it's gonna be a bit of a waiting game for Jordan Daly's part, and a bit of a ticking clock, I think, Jesse, for Svenček. I think he's maybe realizing what we are, of that, I'm quicker in these conditions, but these conditions aren't gonna last, so I maybe need to really get him moving.
Track is down to damp, which means that wet weather tires are still effective, but not as effective. And if you have more of a hybrid setup than a full wet setup, then your car may be a little bit better in these conditions. A little bit lower wing, perhaps, and a little bit more grip, but you will be putting heat through the tires if you are set up that way. I would say a little bit more conservative, a little bit more towards a wet setup in Jordan Daly's AMG versus the Bentley. And row your boat gently down the straight. Here comes Juraj Svenček. He looks left. He ducks right. He's up the inside as they head towards Scene, and it's a very tight corner for Svenček, and he has to back out. Daly called the bluff inside and gets to keep the position. That is round one to the AMG.
That's such good car placement there for Daly. He went defensive, realized that the Bentley maybe started to run out of puff, and he said, I think I've got enough space where I can brake normally, not put myself under pressure braking offline, and the fight is going to continue. And it's so close between them. The third sector seeming to go to the AMG. It just seems that as Juraj Svenček starts to go, but he manages to save it, and in fact actually manages to get a good exit out of the corner. I have no idea how he formula drifted this shit out of the final corner, but he's going to keep it where he has it, and he's going to have to make his way around Raphael Huel. But that was unbelievable bit of driving from Juraj. It seems like nothing happened on the timing screen, Jesse Lee, but that was so close to disaster.
Well, ship me, I can't believe he did not spin that Boatley around. I don't understand how we did not have a local yellow on the pit straight for Juraj Svenček, the Harry Carey driver, just about looping it in his pursuit of Jordan Daly. And if you're Daly, who's also slip sliding around, you would have saw that in the mirror. You would have saw the headlights of the Bentley sort of come in and out of focus as he spun that thing around. That does nothing but give you more confidence if you're Daly, that you're wearing him out, that you're wearing him down, because heavier rain is coming. This track will go back to full wet at some point before it inevitably lessens again. This is going to be a yo-yo battle. Here we are again. Huge defensive line. GT4 in the way. They both have to go around the Maserati, and they get it by Henry the Hoover, and they continue on, but still unable to do it around the outside. That time as Juraj Svenček. He's had two looks, Jack has Juraj. One down the inside, one around the outside, and neither of them able to stick. And unflappable, unwavering was Jordan Daly in the confidence in his car.
Daly now knows. He knows where that gap has to be as they come onto the back straight. It needs to be about 6/10 or greater. Otherwise, that Bentley is most likely going to come through. It's at least going to be alongside, if not ahead. So Daly knows that he's got to do the work in the third sector. He's got to do the work in the first sector as well. We're coming up to the back of, I believe that's Billy Octane. He had a bit of a self-spin earlier on, is now finding himself a bit later. Nope, that's not Billy Octane. It's the other of the identical pair of SJ&H car. It's the American driver of Cal Barrington Jr. Having just done their pit stop, Ted Edwards doing the same. Juraj Svenček is actually in pit lane. He went in that lap, Jesse Lee.
I think that's smart. I think he's playing the odds here. He knows what the weather's going to do immediately. The second he knew what the weather was going to do at the end of the race, 30 minutes until the end, 30 minutes on the clock. It's going to be light rain. Svenček knew what the weather was going to do, and he ducked down pit lane. He's going to try and win this race through pit strategy and not a direct fight. He had two good looks at Daly. Daly didn't crack. He's now deploying his ultimate trap card. He's going into the pit lane. He's going to do his final stop and get back out. And as long as that pit stop is clean, he is going to be set up to contest the win here at Paul Ricard. Imo Plata is in. Hugo Gomez is in. Rafael Huel is in out of P2 in GT4. It's as early as you could know the end of the race. The track has gone full wet again as the rain has picked up. I like this call because now is when you dam the torpedoes and you set sails to full. You know what the race is going to do, what the weather's going to do. You can formulate your strategy, and I think this is the best case scenario for Juraj Svinček. Let's just hope that he has the gumption, the mustard, and the wind at his back to get it done.
It's pretty much all ahead full for everybody who's finished their pit stops, though. There's only 4 minutes till the window closes, so everybody's going to be in the next 2 or 3 laps. I think Jordan Daly's going to have to come in at the end of this lap to cover off Juraj Svinček. I don't think he can hope to outgun him on over lap time. Maybe he could, but I think it's too much of a gamble at this stage. And most drivers, about half the field now, having done their stops.
Daly's in.
Straight line battle. Daly is in. Maybe I was again, tell my father I was right for once. Rafael Huel down the Mistral straight, side by side with Kevin Boss. It seems that maybe the Porsche's got a bit more go, but really not by much. They're about equal. I think it's just going to be slightly on the brakes. No, Kevin Boss at the end of the straight tucks back in. Lets Rafael Huel through. Of course, Kevin still needs to stop in his box. Might be doing that at the end of his lap, so maybe thinking, finding this one not really too much of a concern at this point. Within the pit stops, it's brought these 3 drivers together, or these 2 drivers together, excuse me, Will Stevenson, Ted Edwards. I feel like ever since Ted came to this championship, it's pretty much been old V8 versus new V8 motor.
Yeah, it's absolutely glorious, isn't it? Jordan Daly in and out of the pit lane, clean, no issue. Svinček with the same. It was clean for them as well. We're going to have to see where the 107 is. Now coming into turn 1, just behind. The gap has opened up a little bit as it looks like Svinček lost a little bit of time with the undercut. That's unusual. You don't see that a lot. That could be traffic related. That could be confidence related. It could be that it's also the weather, but Jack, I hear that it may have just been pit time alone.
Yeah, absolutely. A 106.4 for Jordan Daly, and for Juraj Svinček a 109.6. So that's a handful of seconds lost in the pit lane. That brings back the conversation favorite to all the drivers, which is entering pit lane properly in ACC. It's a bit of a mini game. If you miss your box, they will not lift your car up. There is little to no forgiveness, and that could be time lost. It could be maybe a little bit of extra fuel, but I honestly think it might have just been an overshoot into the pit box for Juraj Svinček, and he had to maybe back up, maybe pull forward, and that gap being given back to Jordan Daly. And now that the track is back to full wet condition, Jesse Lee, I think it certainly is not game over by any stretch of the imagination. 26 minutes remain in this race, but I think in the mid-race battle, the second stint fight, I do think it's gone to Jordan Daly.
Yeah, of course, the other thing it could be, Svinček could have just needed more fuel, just a few more seconds more fuel as well. It could have, like you said, it could have been not stopping in your box. It's very easy. We saw so many penalties in stop 1 of drivers speeding in pit lane. You could easily skid through your box in the wet conditions, because as much as some of the racetrack here has run in a little bit, it has a little bit of grip on it. As off of the racetrack entirely is Cal Barrington Jr. A hip check on Gomez, and here he is, Mike Honcho, and a shove on Sign Corner down the inside again is Gomez taking the position. Does he go wide? It is a reverse move, and here he comes again. Barrington can't quite do it. Gomez closes the door. A hip and shoulder check, a chrome horn, and we're back the way we started.
It's looking like it might go the other way as another hip and check. Somehow they managed to straighten each other out. but it was a little bit narrow coming out of the corner from Barrington, and Hugo Gomez sent round. He's given a little bit of a flash. I think Cal's letting him through in order to not give that up in that way. He wants to do this perhaps the right way, perhaps a bit old school, and I think he knows that on the straight he might have the BMW, so he's going to try to do it this time. You see a lot of hip checks, a lot of minor contacts, and a lot of exceptional racing here
scary
tonight.
moment
Here
with
comes
cars
Cal.
coming out of the pit lane.
Yep, the worst pit exit in the whole world fires right onto the racing
You got
line,
that right.
right onto the racetrack. But maybe it worked in his favor. Maybe it wasn't even a factor. Cal Barrington through on Hugo Gomez. Do I smell another repass coming along for these two? Maybe. Possibly. Narrowly avoiding another crash.
Well, Gomez is hot right now because he doesn't feel that pass from Cal Naughton Jr. was on right there. So Gomez is going to try to do everything to make Cal Barrington's life a little bit more hectic here. And we know that M4 is really quick down the straight. We'll just, for Barrington Jr.'s sake, he hopes that he's just far enough ahead that he doesn't have to deal with the BMW. And I suspect that is exactly what happened, as we do have Barrington Jr. in 10th place in sole possession of that, as now Gomez will have to fight Rybecki again, and that battle will reconvene. 3.3 seconds to gap, first to second in GT3, as we'll keep an eye on that gap as it ebbs and flows. We do know the rain is going to continue to intensify before it lessens and stops completely near the end of the race. Does Svincek have anything for Daly?
It's, I mean, only time will tell, really. The gaps actually decrease. Well, it's just about the same as when they came out of pit lane. It's sort of ebbing and flowing depending on the sector, quite frankly. In Sector 1, it was up to 4 seconds. In Sector 2 now, it's a little bit closer to 3 seconds. So it's going to be down to what these drivers can do. They're coming up to the back of a bit of GT4 traffic as well, so it might be a bit of, you know, multi-class giveth, multi-class taketh away. A bit wide there, but that is absolutely allowed on this circuit. As even wider goes Svincek just behind, so these two are going to have to push to the absolute maximum. They're pretty much going to have to be hot lapping against each other for the next 22 minutes. In these conditions, that's just not even remotely easy. And it's super, super impressive. So I think it's going to keep humming. I think it's going to come down to the final moments, Jesse. I mean, looking at that weather, yeah, it might stop raining, but I just don't think it's going to be anything close to coming to a dry race. Maybe it'll come down to back to a damp track, but I don't think it's going to have too much effect on the outlook of this race.
So this is what we have. Daly and Svincek, 3 seconds. It was 3/10 that particular sector alone, as Uri, who either missed his pit box, had a slower stop, or took more fuel, or all of the above, of course, is always an option, lost time. They were nose to tail prior to the sequence of stops, but had a 3.5 second lead. Did Daly, now down to 3 seconds with 21 minutes left to play. Joe Dauber in the wings in third place, not a factor here. Shipston and Udes, the top 5. Plata, Badowski, Kumpu, Varga, and this fight, this massive fight for what is effectively 9th place, as Barrington Jr. has caught Peter Varga. And if Varga's looking in the rearview mirror, he's saying the same thing we've been saying all day. Well, if it isn't Mike Honcho.
If it isn't, the inevitability, he's going to be looking for it. Hugo Gomez is also going to want it as well. He's going to hope that maybe Peter Varga can slow down Cal Barrington Jr. just a little bit so that he can regain the fight here. Peter Varga it's been, well, I was going to say it's been quiet. It hasn't really been quiet for anybody out there tonight, but he's up into 9th. He's really not made any mistakes where others have faltered. But he's got 2 really quick drivers looming just in the mirror. So we'll see how it's going to look. They're going to come through the first sector. They're going to get onto the main straight. It's going to be Ferrari versus Ferrari. One has the slipstream, one doesn't. Maybe two slightly different setups as well. So one could just be naturally quicker. And even just behind them, Wojtek Rybecki in the V12 Aston. I wouldn't count out of this fight if it goes on long enough. The Helicam giving us the best opportunity to see what the closing speed looks like. Here comes Cal Barrington Jr. down the straight. Varga went left. He's going back right. He's thinking, I need to use up all of the circuit. This time he's going to go for the reverse squeeze, and it's actually not quite enough. Maybe an attempt at a switchback, but I don't think this time he's going to quite do it between the pair. Just some good old-fashioned car positioning to defend from an overtake down the straight. It's a good defensive move. It's a good thought from Cal to try to get back under him, but it's going to continue for a little bit. This is going to work well for Gomez and Rybecki, though.
Yeah, it really is. Vargas holding up the line. Barrington Jr., Gomez, Rybecki all sneaking into this, and if they don't shake a leg, Stevenson and Edwards will be upon them sometime quite soon indeed. One driver missing from the squabble is Billy Octane, who had a self-spin earlier on prior to the second pit stop, and they're actually behind the GT4 leader right now as they continue to try and pick up pieces in the Speed Juice and Horseflow 33 Ferrari. The Estonian driver continuing to pound around here, looking to pick up the pieces if anyone else should so happen to fall off the road here late in this one. Keeping an eye on the front, it is 2.8 seconds the gap first to second, but this here is Raphael Huell, P2 in the GT4 category, has slipped some 10 seconds, 10, 12 seconds behind Andy Boardman. That has been just about the gap for the past 30 or so minutes, as Boardman has been able to maintain that gap in what probably can't be described as a comfortable day here at Paul Ricard, but certainly making it look exactly that way. Misa Stubna in third in the Chevrolet Camaro. Mike Redford and this driver, Callum Kerrigan, rounding out your top five right now in GT4. A little bit of contact here with Kevin Boss. A little brush.
Just a brush. It's just a little bit of wiping off the water on the rear. He said, let me clean up that diffuser for you there, my good man. Two Mercedes drivers making the factory proud. An update on the championship, how it looks. Joe Dauber currently in third. If he finishes this race in third, he will win the championship in GT3. For GT4, Raphael Huell needed to beat Andy Boardman, and Boardman needed to finish in fifth. So that championship very much looking like it's going to go to the final round. Still the fight at the front. It's changed just a little bit. Jordan Daly's opened up the gap just a tad, and they're back to it again. Cal Barrington Jr. no longer chasing down Peter Varga, but being chased down by Hugo Gomez. I feel like we should have kept count, Jesse, because I think we could give out a really good overtake award tonight, because I feel like there's a couple of cars that there's been so much pass and repass, and there may be 10 to 15 overtakes per driver.
Yeah, it really is like that. This track lends itself to that because of the sort of switchback nature, where you got the huge straight and the more technical sector 1s and 3. So you kind of get that sort of ebb and flow, as we've talked about all race. You add the rain in there as an extra little wild card, and you get this sort of situation. And I would love that. I'd love to have an overtake sort of counter, because I guarantee you some of these drivers, just on in passes for position alone, there's got to be a couple of them that are in double digits simply because they're going back and forth. Barrington able to make a little bit of a gap to Gomez. Gomez falling back into the clutches of Wojtek Rybecki again. Will Stevenson continuing to close in. That was a 2-second gap. It's down under that now. Though strangely, on the Mistral straight, it did sort of come down. One of the Maseratis is around in Sign Corner, and I wonder, well, it's Schaefer obviously in the 13, but I'm curious, did Barrington have to take avoiding action here? Rybecki, or not Rybecki, that's Varga, of course, had to do it, and a little bit of a maneuver from Barrington, as well as Martin Schaefer was in absolute no man's land right there, desert island.
I think Henry maybe spotted a bit of gravel that needed to be swept up out there. Maybe that's why the Hoover ended up out there. I don't know. But yeah, no, good reactions from Peter Varga. And that's sort of one of those times where you not generally, but you hold your brakes when you have a spin. That is maybe one of the very few times where it's a bit acceptable to let the car roll back well off the circuit, out of the way of the fastest corner on the racetrack, because it could have been very ugly if that Maserati stayed there any longer. As a reminder, that Maserati, no driver aids whatsoever, no traction control, no ABS, so in the rain, it is beyond a handful. So for Martin Schaefer, it's a difficult day, but things are about to get a little hot and heavy for these four drivers, because Peter Varga not really able to get past Raphael Huell on this part of the racetrack, so it's creating a concertina effect. And it seems that Hugo Gomez has maybe I thought maybe he had a bit more momentum coming out of the corner, but I don't think quite. It's really looking like it's going to be a battle between the Ferraris. You know that M4 is fast. Solus Racing M4 GT3, perhaps maybe the newest car on the circuit. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, no, I think it would be the Ford Mustang by Ted Edwards, but very close. Maybe getting a bit too close out of me, Stroll, because here comes Hugo Gomez again. Are they going to touch doors again? They are. These two have been swapping paint. He's still there. He's still going for it. And the track's going to switch back left. It's going to come back for Cal Barrington Jr. Way to keep it around the outside. He's going to use up all the track. But here comes Wojtek Rybecki. A little bit of a touch on Hugo Gomez as they come out of the corner, but managing to keep it relatively pointing in the right direction. This now is bringing Will Stevenson into this fight.
Very close as you like, through Sector 3 here at Paul Ricard in the dying embers. 12.5 minutes left to go. The rain will start to lessen, but the intensity is heating up here. Released is Mike Honcho to go and race Varga, as now Gomez is fighting a war on all fronts. Surrounded in his own port is Gomez by Rybecki and Stevenson. Ted Edwards just adrift of this picture, as all of these cars now fighting over 11th place. That's music to Barrington's ears, because now he has a little bit of breathing room to fight Varga himself for 9th position. As look at this, Gomez now under fire on every corner. Rybecki looked to the inside, thinks better of it, falls back in line and continues. And wow, just very close. And I believe we just lost the Jaguar. I believe we just lost Will Stevenson.
I think we did. Maybe he'll pop back in a second, but I think he's just completely gone. Robbed of a great moment, completely disappeared off everything. So I think he's gone from the race. But here comes Wojtek Rybecki in the V12 Vantage. It's pure party piece, just sailing down the inside and up in front of the BMW of Hugo Gomez. If he can keep it on circuit, he goes a little bit wide, actually. Gomez finding his way through. I think Hugo Gomez might be our recipient for the overtake award. I think at least the switchback overtake award. We've seen so many from him. He's just the BMW, what I used to call the grip machine, just sort of being able to hang on in all corners. But here comes Rybecki again, getting a little bit close like they did just a lap ago, but it's going to keep going. Ticking down 11 minutes, Jesse Lee. The fight at the front still no different. About 4 seconds between Svenchek and Jordan Daly. The mid-pack, though, are absolutely getting the spotlight tonight because the fighting has been perfect.
Yeah, and here's your public service announcement brought to you by Jesse Lee. If you don't like GT racing, if you don't watch GT racing, what are you doing? What are you doing with yourself? Sort yourself out. This is brilliant. These cars could not be more different. They could not be more differently laid out. And you have all these different manufacturers in the wet doing battle these drivers, give them a hand. They're putting on a show in the rain in difficult conditions around an already technically difficult racetrack. Give it up for them. Just absolutely brilliant job, brilliant racing here today. And again, if this is your first ever time seeing GT racing, yes, the real thing is a lot like that. This is what it's all about. All these different cars racing together. How about two cars that are the same? These two Ferraris duking it out, trying to probe for driver weakness here. Might have found it a worse turn. Oh no, it's gone wrong. It's gone incredibly wrong. Peter Varga hard into the Armco halfway down the Mistral straight as they duck and dive and jockey for position. Barrington drives away for the scene, but it's a huge crash from Peter Varga.
It's just so close. You can see that he pulls out just a second too late and barely taps the rear of that Ferrari. He manages to actually collect it pretty well, but that car is going to be wounded down a couple of positions. The ever so slight misjudgment. No, actually, that car is a bit more than just wounded. Barely trundling down the circuit. That steering is not going to be pointing the right way. Loads of suspension damage. The hood on that car flapping in the wind. Is going to be an immediate and very much emergency pit stop for Peter Varga. He was fighting inside the top 10, but that is pretty much going to be the end of his race. He might find himself still in 13. Is just about the right move for it. Such a close moment, but you suspect perhaps a conversation with the stewards?
I was just going to say, I suspect the Varga report to be quite spirited this week.
Ah, yes, of course. Of course. Yeah, no, it probably will be. It's the fine margins of motorsport, and you misjudge at that point, at that speed. That is a couple of milliseconds, an inch, maybe even less than that was done wrong by. But a bit of a shame late in the race.
Sure is. Well, don't let that detract from the race up front. It was as much as 4 seconds the gap. Daly was doing such a good job, had doubled his lead, and now it's starting to go back the other way. He's lost half a second to Svinček as the rain starts to lessen. One thing I noticed on Varga's crippled car as they were driving through is that there was less rain on the windscreen than there was a little while ago. The rain is starting to lessen, and it will do all the time. It won't completely stop before the end of the race, but remember, this is the kind of condition where Svinček was better than Daly earlier on in the race. Well, we don't technically give away a Spirit of the Race award in RCI, but maybe Will Stevenson, he's had a rough year with connection issues, mechanical faults, and of course he's also driving the Jag. So it's not the most hospitable car or most modern as well, but he has reconnected and has continued on, and if that's not the spirit of racing, I don't know what is.
And the brilliant thing is, I do believe he's actually going to finish ahead of all the GT4 cars, so he's sort of going to be, there or thereabouts with the GT field. He's going to be a couple of laps down, but it won't be so out of position that it'll look funky. But yeah, it's so tricky. Something like that happens entirely out of your control. It's the equivalent of a real-life mechanical fault, but in sim racing form. It's yet again the unstoppable force and against the immovable object, this time a little bit reversed. Rybecki in the CLR car is a bit hampered by the Porsche. He's going to lose a little bit of a run here and find himself with an even bigger, angrier, slightly less performance straight line machine behind him. Ted Edwards is in the hunt, and I have to admit, I'm a little bit curious to see how this is going to look in straight line performance, because these two are sort of known for their how good they are on a straight. The Mustang's a little bit better everywhere though, so we'll see how it looks between the two. Half a second as they got onto the straight. Is that going to be closing ever so slightly? Maybe, sort of. I think they might be just about dead even though.
No, he's maybe closing.
He's definitely closing now. Yeah, there's
that
the
Mustang
closing
has
speed.
top end 5,500 RPM plus in the big grunting V8, and he got there. The V12 will die a little bit And I think that's what you saw at the end of that straight there. And that's all she wrote. The Mustang able to close back in. I believe this is the oldest car in ACC versus the newest car in ACC. I mean, technically the oldest car in ACC is the Lamborghini because it was the first one whenever it was in pre-release but I think as far as actual age of the GT3 homogenation, I think this is the oldest versus the newest available in ACC. Somebody could fact check me. I might be slightly incorrect there, but nevertheless, it is one of the first generation of cars versus the newest generation as well. Gap for the lead continues to come down as well. 3.3 seconds through the last timing beam. Svinček is closing, but I dare say, unless he gets a move on, it might be just a little too much too far. Boardman leads Raphael Huell by 10.5 seconds. That gap was actually a little bit more earlier on, but still 10 seconds, a healthy gap indeed. Back to Huell. Miso Stubna, the Kermit Motorsports 666. You know, it's not easy being green, and they've certainly found their way in the middle of some other drivers' squabbles today, but certainly surviving for a podium again here in the Camaro. Doing an excellent job is Stubna. The fight for the win, still much to be decided. The Just Gamers 197 has led much of the race. This time a 2/10 difference in the third sector. Svinček closing on Daly, but only about 2 laps left to go.
It's really something where maybe the Bentley's breathing in on your neck, but the important thing for Jordan Daly is not to go faster, but to keep driving the same level of consistency. And honestly, he's nailed that the entire night. He's pretty much been within a few tenths of his own personal best lap after lap. I mean, his quickest lap is a 59.3. His last lap a 59.6, and he's been doing that the whole time. Just not enough time for Svinček to actually close in, unless Jordan Daly were to make a mistake. Though, speaking of his, being faster or slower, he's actually up a bit on his personal best time. So maybe if he gets a good third sector, he might be seeing a personal best, maybe a fastest lap of the night, Jesse Lee. But it is just about keeping a cool, calm head here for Jordan Daly in the final stages, the final few moments of this incredible race.
Yeah, he's got a delta to play with here. And you just got to be careful because he will hit some lap traffic here on this lap and the final lap of the race. So you've got to be very calm. We saw a couple of close calls, particularly with the wheelie slow AMG of Kevin Boss. A few times we saw illustrated in the middle part of this race, and it can all come undone in an instant. Svinček is close enough that Daly, in most accounts, wouldn't be able to recover in time. This is what you want. You want to catch that GT4 traffic on the straight, but he's going to have to navigate some more of it before the end of the race. Last lap here at Paul Ricard. Daly leads by 3 seconds. Just got to get it home. And Jack, you were right. He's setting the quickest laps, his personal best laps of the race when he needs it most.
Yeah, he's really just needs to come through. Raphael Huell, a drive-through penalty in the final moments of the race.
No.
For track limits almost certainly. And now he's finding himself in a spot of bother. And this is what happened earlier. We actually saw this with a pack of cars. This specific sector, it really doesn't matter what multi-class vehicle it is. If you had this in Le Mans Ultimate, you could be in a hypercar behind a GT3 car, and it doesn't matter because there's really only one line for that bit of the first sector. So it's worked out really well for Jordan Daly because how the gap has opened up just that little bit more. It's been such a good race, Jesse. I think the opening moment is something I'm going to think about. The fact that we were doing the track walk and we started seeing the rain hit the circuit, our pole sitter out in unfortunate fashion, wrong tires at the start, most of the drivers doing well. Jordan Daly driving incredibly in these changeable conditions, fending off Juraj Svinček long enough for the ability to take victory. And he only has a couple more corners to do that. Not just Daly back on the top step of the podium, but Joe Dauber is about to take this championship.
Well, the championship might be decided here today. The race will be decided in a lap, or in a corner or two, I should say. Just Gamers 197 and Jordan Daly returning back to the top step of the podium. It's like he never left. Uri Svinček comes home P2. Joe Dauber will finish third for Rebound Racing and all but clinch the championship here in Mini British GT 2026. RPMS's Tom Shipston has a quiet day in the Lexus for fourth. Raphael Huell comes home and converts his second place into a time penalty. And I think as long as he maintained that 30-second gap to Miso Stubna, he might actually get to keep P2. We're going to find out if Kermit jumps Huell, and he doesn't. He gets to keep second place by 0.4 of a second. Of course, everyone now peeling over the line in the penultimate round. Boardman will be one of the final cars to come across, as Gomez still here in a fight with Barrington for 9.
If anything's been for sure on this racetrack tonight, it's been these two cars. And of course, they're going to have to come together, still fighting. One final move.
Here he goes.
For Hugo Dubé on the outside, or Hugo Gomez, excuse me, not Hugo Dubé. Final moment, final mistake of the night, probably. Here comes Cal Barrington Jr. side by side with his teammate as well. A photo finish ahead of Hugo Gomez. Wojciech Rybecki is going to...
He's had an incident somewhere.
He has had an incident somewhere. He's dropped down behind Ted Edwards. I think perhaps this is why. Could it be? Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. It's almost like what we saw earlier with Barrington and, well, that's a line. With Barrington and Varga, but slightly on the reverse. And Nico Kumpu, or excuse me, Andy Boardman still was driving around, just crossed the line to take victory in GT4.
Oh, yeah.
A bit of friendly running.
That wasn't friendly.
Yeah.
That was very unfortunate indeed. Yeah. You know, the difference between saying what you want and being a broadcaster is knowing when to censor yourself, and I think we've all had to do that just now in the box. A couple of crashes down the Mistral straight today, illustrated there by the most recent one with Ted Edwards and Wojciech Rybecki. Doesn't change the outcome of the race. Jordan Daly over Svinček and Dauber. Dauber, your presumed champion-elect in Mini British GT3 class for 2026. The GT4 championship will live on till the final day. The results on the screen now. Jack, take a breath. Everybody in chat, take a breath. Wow, that was an eventful 90 minutes.
That was absolutely incredible. The results after the end of the hour and a half that we had here at the circuit. Paul Ricard, Jordan Daly back in victory lane after quite a long time. Uri Svinček doing his best to try to hunt down, but not quite able to make up the difference. Joe Dauber in third, Tom Shipston in fourth, Matthew Yudes in fifth, Emma Plata in sixth, Marco Badowski seventh, Kumpu eighth, Barrington Jr. in ninth, Hugo Gomez your top 10, Ted Edwards 11th, Wojciech Rybecki 12th, Peter Varga in 13th, Octane, Stevenson, Roskim, Whittle, and Baddock, your final finishers in GT3. Andy Boardman taking victory and bringing the championship to the final round against Raphael Huell, who finished in second. Miso Stubna finished third. Redford fourth. Callum Kerrigan an impressive fifth for a Ginetta that basically sits still in a straight line. Kevin Boss finishes sixth. Tom Winch seventh. Tessa Thurbley in eighth. Martin Schaefer in ninth, with Picano, Van Cauter, and Anton Klimov either not starting or retiring from the race. Jesse, it's another phenomenal race, which means another phenomenal moment to talk to our many wonderful, wonderful drivers that we have joining us in the booth. And I mean, I'm just reeling from that race. It was so spectacular. Every moment you could possibly want. I ran out of ink writing stuff down. It was spectacular.
Yes, of course it was, Jack. I'm down here with Jordan Daly, the pride of Lancashire, and a winner today in the wet. Daly didn't get the pole, didn't matter. Went up there and took control of the race, kept him at arm's length, even when it looked quite close. You maintained your composure, built a gap, and ended up winning the 90-minute race here at Paul Ricard. What was it like behind the wheel? What was your perspective?
Oh, it were awesome. I mean, as you guys know, a few years anyway, we're friends. I love Paul Ricard. It's one of my many favourite tracks, and I sure showed it today. It were good. The weather was unpredictable at first, obviously, and then we seen the little pattern. I didn't really have to do much with my pressures. I just kept them solid and went through with it. Yeah, there were some times where Svenchek really closed in on me, and I were like, oh, he's going to get me here, he's going to get me here. And yeah, I mean, I held on, and then I don't know, I think something must have happened to him in the final round of pit stops, because I came out with 3 seconds, and I thought, oh, I think I might have this now. I'm not gonna worry too much, and I just head down, focused. I did have three track limits for the majority of the race. I think I had to race for like 45 minutes with those 3, but you know, you get used to it for a good race.
Well, Daly, you have taken some time off of ACC, but you've come back and in your second or third attempt, reminded them all of the pedigree of the multiple-time Night Owl champion and race winner in all of the ACC Weekly Series. Congratulations. Welcome back to winning. Anybody you want to shout out?
You guys for putting all this on, and one special thank you to Grim Lily, because without him tonight I wouldn't have had a setup, so I probably wouldn't have even won.
There you have it. Jordan Daly, your winner here at Paul Ricard. Moving on to Jack. Oh, yes, thank you, Daly. Moving on to Jack. I'm going to have a bev with Daly, I think. Moving on to Jack, who's down with your ice spin check.
You're right. It was very close to being where Daly's standing now. It was very close to, well, it was a titanic battle all the way through. You really came good in the second stint. Maybe you lost a bit in the third. I mean, I think we know a little bit what happened in your pit stop. You might have missed your box just a little bit, but just sort of talk me through maybe where things went slightly wrong and the reason you didn't win this race.
Well, I think it's curse. I somehow cannot win any race on the RCI. It's either way. What happened for me? I don't know why I put the 100 liters at the start of the race. So I was 50 liters heavier than everyone around me. So I was losing time, and I realized that immediately. Like, well, why did I do that? I don't know. It just happens. But when the fuel went down, I sped up. I picked up the pace, and I was catching up to Jordan. And but yeah, it wasn't enough. But at the first round of the pit stops, I was I wanted to do the undercut immediately because there was a lot of GT4s in front of us, so I did it. But I had like the most closest pit stop, the pit stand really close, and I wasn't prepared. I had to, lower down my fuel. I missed I completely missed the pit stop, my crew. So that was pretty much fail. But I was lucky that I don't know what happened to Jordan, but he came out like 1 second in front of me, because I lost good 10 seconds there, because they picked me up, then throw me down, and just whole charade. But at the second stint, I was flying. I was in the zone. I was catching Jordan I had 0 track limits at that point. It was perfect. Like like everything was laid out. I knew the strategy was right then. I had a good feel, and the next pit stop, I missed it by a couple of inches, and they again picked me up, and I lost 2 or 3 seconds. And yeah, on the third stint, I couldn't push it because when I started to push, I had few slides which cost me like ridiculous track limits, and I had 3, so I was just not. I didn't want to lose the second place, so I was pushing, but not 110%, but 100%. Yeah, there was a couple of opportunities for me to overtake him, but yeah, I was
so close.
patient, patient, very patient to him, because I thought it will come to me again. So yeah, just maybe next time.
Maybe next time, indeed. I mean, one more opportunity next week at Brands Hatch. No, it was so touch and go. We saw some of your slides. We saw perhaps the most fantastic drift I've ever seen in the wet. Just sailing the boat late. But yeah, the ACC pit lane parking mini game comes and gets us all. It's not the first time that I personally have seen a race get decided by something like that. And I think tonight's not really going to be the last time. But congratulations on P2. And before you go, anybody you'd like to shout out?
Thank you very much. I would like to give a shout out to Jordan. He made the race really exciting for me. I was sweating a lot. And to Martin Lawrence, he gave me the setup. He's my go-to guy for setups on Bentley. So yeah, that and everyone in RCI and everyone watching, because it was a hell of a race. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us, and congrats one final time. Best of the rest is what we say, and that's still better than a heck of a lot of people. Jesse Lee, you're down with, I mean, we said it, the unofficial, not really real, but I'm still going to say it again, Spirit of the Race winner award recipient, patent pending, Will Stevenson.
Yeah, you're right. I am down here with Will Stevenson. Will, I feel like every race is an adventure in the Jag, but today maybe a little bit more so with the weather and the track. Talk us through your experience racing the Jag in the wet today.
I mean, adventure is probably the best way to put it. It was actually running quite well in the first opening 10 minutes, and then rear end got loose and I just dropped it, which was not the world's greatest thing because I was running, I think, 7th or 8th at the time and had some decent pace. And then it just kind of spiraled downhill from there. Got caught up in 1 or 2 incidents that just nothing I could have really done. One, someone coming back onto the track, not really their fault, but also nowhere for me to go. And then obviously found Redford spun in the middle of the track and tried to avoid it as best I could. But yeah, again, just nowhere I could have gone. So I ended up backwards about 3 times during this race. And yeah, other than that, it was good fun. Then a DC to top it all off as well, right at the end of the day with still top 10 possibilities. And yeah, I think everything that could have gone wrong in this race did, but still high spirits, and it was still good fun nonetheless driving out there.
Well, it was fantastic. We love the Jag. It's a fan favorite. We hear it before we see it, but we still love it nonetheless. And I think anyone who's ever driven the Jag, of course, back in the day, it was somewhat of a fun, popular choice for the adventurous, and I think we can appreciate that as well. Will, anybody you want to shout out?
As always, you guys for just putting on the streams and putting on a show. Always makes the races much more entertaining. To the drivers, especially the guys in the Monday chat, for making the race more entertaining, especially with all the problems that I had today. Yeah, just keeping me in good spirits as well. Just being able to kind of still race and have some fun was always nice. So yeah.
Well, Will Stevenson, one more lap, one more race in the Jag at Brands Hatch in 1 week's time. Jack, I hear you're down with potentially a hot under the collar, Peter Varga.
Yeah, here with the Varga report. Would be nowhere without it. A really stellar job. No mistakes made, and in the final few moments, it wouldn't really say it was a mistake on your end, and maybe a misjudgment by one of your competitors, seeing you Beyblading down the Mistral straight, but up to that moment and maybe past that moment, how was your race tonight?
Up to that moment, the race was actually much better than I expected. I was on pace today. I same estate. I enjoy Paul Ricard. I'm one of probably 5 people in the world who actually enjoy this circuit, and I usually go well around here. So yeah, I was surprised because I got quite late into the practice, but yeah, I qualified quite well. The race started good. Then I don't know if you know how the cue ball in snooker feels like, but I have kind of good idea how it feels. Like guys have just decided that I'm gonna be the one who's gonna be ping ponged around, but even with that, I enjoyed the racing, especially because my strategy worked wonderfully every time. I managed to just box later, get ahead of people on strategy, and at the end, driving in the top 10, it was great. The only thing I had to do was keep it out of the track limits. I actually had to get one track limit because of Schaefer spinning on the exit of the seeing corner, which was not nice because that put me on my final track limit. And yeah, afterwards I was feeling quite confident I can do that. And this happened, and I would like to just finish it off by sending off Tommy Milner salute to my fellow Ferrari competitor. I believe you know what that means, what I think of him, and just lucky that I can just walk in the sim garage and go have a friendly chat in the other team's garage.
Well, we will leave it at that. In fantastic run tonight. Up until that point, your spin was pretty spectacular. It made for good TV, so maybe there's a little bit of a silver lining there for you. But before you go, Peter, anybody you want to shout out?
Shout out to Joey Dober for giving me some setups. Thank you.
We have a name for Joe Dauber, the setup daddy, as he is known. And now I believe my own math impending. I believe he is now our champion. And Jesse Lee, you're down speaking with him. And I hope I didn't get my math wrong because then I'd feel bad. But pretty confident. I get 80% confident.
Well, with 80% confidence, I am here with Joe Dauber, who might be, with the drop round calculated, already your champion elect. But, Joe, let's start off with today. Just qualifying wasn't where you would have expected it. You had to battle all day, but in the end, you get the spots, you get the positions that you need, and you look like champion elect now.
Oh, that's good news. Yeah, I just not done any dry practice, so I was absolutely shockingly slow in quali. So I was delighted that it started off as a wet race. But yeah, my setup was super safe. I realized I'd probably gone too far when a Bentley caught me by 0.8 seconds on one straight. So yeah, I think I was running far too much wing on this one. But it was a battle to survive for me, really. I knew I just needed to pick up a lot of points, as many as possible.
Well, I think you did a really good job of that. And I'm going to hold off giving the championship interview because you're champion elect now, but
Okay.
we'll talk to you more next week when you actually hoist the trophy. So I don't want to preemptively celebrate just in case, our math isn't entirely correct, but it's been huge. We thought that it was going to be an uphill battle, but the car ran better in the race, and we believe you did, in fact, get the points. Follow up, will you obviously attend the finale next week if it is a victory lap? And is there anybody you would like to thank or shout out?
I will be there. All things going well. I'm expecting this car to be a bit of a shit show at Brands Hatch, but who knows? maybe I'm wrong. Shout out to yourself, Jack and Ash, for the broadcast. It's always great to watch it back. And yeah, like always, RCI community. It's great to have a big bunch of people supporting each other, helping each other out. It's top community.
Joe Dauber, champion elect of the final Mini British GT Championship. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Jack, I believe you found our GT4 winner, Andy Boardman.
Andy, another stellar performance from you inside your Aston Martin Vantage GT4. Ever-changing conditions did not really flummox you a whole lot. As far as drivers who appeared to be comfortable and maybe had a bit of a quieter race, you were maybe one of them. But to the victor goes the spoils, and you also, whether or not you realize that you've brought the championship to the final round, so it's going to be a battle between you and Raphael Huel. I mean, coming into the final round after the 7 rounds you've driven so far, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I was glad it was worth that race because I don't think I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have won if it had been dry. So yeah, I was praying it was going to rain, and fortunately it did. Yeah, apart from the start, obviously Redford was in front at the start, and I just tried to stay as close behind him as possible, use his slipstream to try and get away from everyone else. And then fortunately he made a little mistake, which put me in front, and yeah, I was able just to keep that bit of a gap. I'm not sure what happened to Redford. I think he obviously had some sort of incident because I thought he'd be about second or third, but clearly not. But yeah, apart from that, it was a pretty quiet race, really.
Well, any race you can hoist a trophy, spray some champagne, I think is a good one. And congrats on your victory again. Anybody you would like to shout out before you go?
No, just a shout out to you guys for putting the races on. Yeah, thanks for that. And I guess it's a win for the North as well with Daly winning the GT3
That's
and me winning
true.
GT4s. So yeah, the North of England wins tonight. Us Northerners.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Ash Bibby as well, viewers. I know you can't hear him. He's cheering as well as another Northerner. But yeah, no, it's a great night for the North, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no worries.
Jesse Lee, the man in the Mustang, would like to have a word with you. You're down with him, Mr. Ted Edwards.
Yeah, I'm here with Ted Edwards. It got a little spicy there at the end, Ted, but just talk us through your day and then work up to the Mistral Strait incident. What happened?
I mean, we before we got onto the grid, I said to everyone, I said it'd be funny if it was damp and went into the rain, wouldn't it? And then we all spawned on the grid and it was damp into rain, and that was it was a big laugh between us all. So that was quite funny. Car was nice. It was okay. I was running a hybrid setup between dry and wet. So it sort of worked. It was I think it was the second quickest car in a straight line. Struggled in sector 3, but it was fun. But yeah, I had the incident with Varga in turn 2. I span him. Luckily, I tapped him back round. I've apologised for that. And then I was trying to defend from Kumpu, who was behind Redford. I tried to box him in, and then I looked up and Billy Octane's on the brakes, and I tapped him round. So I've already apologised, and Billy was okay with it because he's not doing the next race, or he would be very angry. But yeah, it was just like I couldn't get the pit stops done properly. The engine wouldn't turn off, so I lost like a good 6 seconds in between both pits, and then I may have tried to go for a gap that I think was there and then wasn't there. Me and Rybecky have had a chat about it in the chat, and we don't know who's at fault because we don't know if there was overlap at the time. He thought I would have gone left, whereas I didn't, and then I thought he was going to let me have some gap scenes. I got my nose in. I think you may have seen it on the broadcast. That yeah.
Well, it was an ending that we saw a couple of Mistral Strait incidents and a couple beyond that as well in the tricky conditions. One race left in the championship, one last run for the Mustang GT3. Ted, anyone you want to shout out?
I just want to thank you guys for broadcasting this. I want to thank Kevin for putting the champ on. It's been fun. I mean, the rain was fun today, so it was something. Thank you to all the viewers at home, and I want to say sorry to the people who I made contact with today because I didn't mean to. Today was not intentional. But yeah.
Well, there you have it. Ted Edwards apologetic for the way things ended. It was a spirited race on all accounts. One race left to go. Of course, we've got more racing for you this week. 2 more streams, in fact, absolutely spoiling all of you this week. LMU Thursdays LMP2 Sprint Championship continues. You can sign up for that on SimGrid and get involved this week. Round number 2, Jack and myself with Cormac behind the cameras. And on Saturday, the 310 miles of Le Mans in LMU as well. Race is about 2+ hours in length. Still have very limited slots available if you want to go to SimGrid. Follow the link in the description and sign up for that as well. Well, speaking of which, 90-minute race, chaotic throughout, some worthy winners, and the North of England wins it all at all cost. Jack, what a fantastic way to end Paul Ricard.
Yeah, that could possibly be my favorite race of the season so far. There's been so many good ones that maybe I have a bit of recency bias, but it was stellar. Very left pretty much nothing else to be desired. A great race, ever-changing conditions, lots of movement throughout the field, a couple of accidents to point and gawk at, a couple of great overtakes, and well, tons of great overtakes. But another fantastic week. The penultimate round, of course, we will be bringing you the finale this time next week. Brands Hatch, 60 minutes, championships on the line, no holds barred finale for Mondays with ACC. I want to thank you all so much for joining us. Final thank you to the drivers as well, because without them, we'd be 2 men shouting at ultimately nothing, 2 children shouting at ultimately nothing. Thank you to everybody at RCI who makes these things happen as well. Be good to yourself. Enjoy your week. Come join us on Thursday and on Saturday. Have a great night. We will speak with you all soon.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight.